Election 2024 on WDAY Radio and The Flag.
Well, it didn't take long for primary day 2024 to get very interesting in North Dakota, but now we have reached that finish line. The speeches, the ads, and yes, the text messages are over, and now the adding and reporting begins. Good evening, everybody. I'm Steve Hallstrom, anchor for tonight's coverage of primary night. Speaking of misleading, that label isn't exactly accurate either, because for school boards, city commissions, and other offices, it is the only election. And the winner tonight is the winner going forward. Glad to have you with us tonight on WDAY and WZFG, The Flag in Fargo, as we'll be covering all the statewide and local races that have been compelling and crazy from day one. With me here to co-host the evening, we welcome former Fargo City Commissioner and host of Thursdays with Tony on WDAY Radio, Tony Gehrig. Tony, how you doing?
Yeah, good evening, Steve. Thanks for having me on. It should be an interesting night.
It should be a very interesting night.
I am looking forward to the end of the text messages. Yeah. I think I got 12 today.
Seriously.
So they just didn't stop right up until the end. So up until 7 o'clock, I was getting text messages from unknown numbers from candidates running, especially for Congress. So.
Yeah, I guess these days nobody pays for text messages anymore, so it doesn't matter. Remember the old days when you used to have to give your permission because it cost you 9 cents to send a text message? Well, those campaigns would be broke, many of them. Tony, the day started, speaking of text messages, with one on my phone just before 8 a.m. saying Julie Fedorchuk, quote, withdraws from North Dakota GOP House, end quote. It looked like reporting from several reputable news sources, including our own newsroom. I was suspicious from the start because I just don't pay a lot of attention anyway to the text messages. But with everything coming in last week, I kind of wasn't paying attention anyway. But looking into it a little more, I can see how somebody might have been fooled by that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I did not receive that, oddly enough, that text message. So I had to learn from you guys on the radio. I think I was listening to Scott when I was going to work or whatever. And that's definitely some underhanded stuff right there. Ooh. And there probably should be an investigation into who sent those out. So I don't know how far freedom of speech takes you on that one, but that one might be moving into the realm of tampering with that election.
Yeah, no doubt about it. That one was a tough one, because I think if you were just someone who was scrolling through and hadn't read much about the races, didn't know about the North Dakota GOP convention, which is what the ad was kind of playing off of, you would think that, okay, there's something here, and there's a little video with no sound of Julie Fedorchuk talking to a KFYR reporter, and she's kind of got a blank look on her face. So yeah, it's one of those that is a little thumbnail or a GIF, as the kids would say. Quote, Fedorchuk withdraws bid for North Dakota GOP in forum. Fedorchuk withdraws from North Dakota GOP House, AM 11 under the flag. Fedorchuk withdraws, KFYR TV. And then they even give a little summary of the conversation. Reporter, quote, how did you come to the decision in that moment to, after the second vote, to withdraw? And then Julie gives her answer basically from the convention, which she withdrew from the process of getting the nomination.
Right.
But that's where, if you just kind of looked and didn't critically think about this, you might think there's something going on here. Julie, I thought, handled it very well in the press conference today. And I thought it was a smart move on their part. By saying, okay, hey, if we're going to be singled out, let's make a press conference and give ourselves some attention without it seeming like we're looking for attention.
Right.
She did not name Rick Becker by name, and I thought that was smart.
So that was the first thing I heard was, okay, let's look at the Becker campaign. Has there been any information suggesting that they have anything to do with it?
There isn't. The Becker campaign says we did not have anything to do with this. Now, the dark money comes in, the PAC text, and you don't know. Not all of the PACs are in close communication with the candidates that they are supporting, or, friend of my friend is my enemy kind of a thing. So there's nothing to lead us to believe that happened. But obviously somebody wanted to insert some misinformation into the race, and it's probably not Alex Balas.
Right.
So then it's Cara Mund, it's Rick Becker, or it's just somebody that doesn't like Julie Fedorchuk. So I don't know, but I thought she handled that well. Her campaign manager earlier today said, that nasty Rick Becker guy. And I'm like, oh boy, be careful now, because you don't know. And if you don't have the proof. So that was an interesting start to the day. And I just don't really believe that there's going to be a whole lot of votes being changed. But I did get a text from a friend that said, I'm voting later today, and it makes me sad what they're doing to Julie, and I think I'm going to vote for her. And I'm like, no. That's not why we vote for people, because we feel sorry for them. But she's probably not, or that person is probably not the only one that feels like, okay, something wrong was done here.
Yeah, whenever something abnormal happens, there's going to be a reaction. And sometimes it's in your favor, and sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
Hopefully this is a wash, because I would hate to have,
I think so,
a Becker or something like that win, which I think is highly possible, and go forward.
Yeah.
And there's some sort of cloud over the campaign then when he goes up against and he tries to run for that seat. So this is it's not over today, right? So whoever wins has to go forward.
There are sorry.
No, go ahead. No.
Yeah, I was just going to say there's so many interesting what could happens in this whole thing. If Rick Becker wins this race by 500 votes tonight, now you're like, oh boy, there's going to be an investigation. She may not concede. There may be appeals. There may be whatever lawsuits to say, let's do this again. Let's just send everybody to the November general and see what happens, or a special runoff of some kind. So you just don't know what might happen there. The other interesting thing I think in that race, Tony, is let's say that Alex Balazs, Julie Fedorchak, Rick Becker, the more conservative candidates in that race, all slug it out. And then you got Cara Munn that kind of drifts in, and all the Democrats. You just have to figure that there have been some people within the Democrat circles who are like, "Hey, let's get in there and let's all vote for. Don't vote in the Democrat primary. Let's all go." Now I don't know how many people will do it, but you could make a case for Cara Munn sneaking in, getting all of the moderate / left-leaning conservative, if there is one, vote out there. And if she consolidates every Democrat vote in the state plus moderate Republicans, the numbers there could get interesting too. So I think this could be really interesting, because in North Dakota, you just decide what side you want to vote on. You don't have to be declared or be registered at all.
Yeah, well, people forget that she got like 38% of the vote last time she ran for Congress. So that's not a small number.
Against Kelly Armstrong. And she ran as an independent then. It was late into the race, and there was a Democrat candidate already.
Yep. Yeah. So I'm not saying she's going to do that and sneak in there, but like you say, if you're a Democrat, especially in Western North Dakota or something like that, a lot of your candidates aren't, even if they go forward, they're not going to win, right? Yeah. I think a lot of these primaries, the Republican is the presumptive winner after the fact. Yes. It's just who's going to get that Republican spot is the bigger race.
Yeah.
So if you are a Democrat and you're like, well, the heck with it, I can still vote for my school board. I can still vote for my commission.
Yes.
I can still vote for these, lower ticket items and just not vote for the Democrat for a governor who probably isn't going to win. Then why not? Would I go and vote for a more I hate to say liberal, but not as staunch as a conservative in Cara Munn?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And she's got some billboards running in town.
Sure.
There's been mailers going out. So
text messages.
Shocking. Yeah. There is some money behind her, so that will be interesting. So let's talk a little bit about our coverage tonight. Tony and I probably both lean to the right of center on most issues, but tonight we're on WDAY and Flag. So we're going to try to call balls and strikes pretty fair down the middle with not a lot of leaning one way or the other. So even if you are someone who considers yourself a staunch liberal, a Democrat, and you typically would not listen to the Steve Hallstrom show, we hope that you'll find plenty of good content here tonight. We're just going to talk about what is happening and why, what does it all mean. So we think it's going to be a great night no matter what party you typically cheer for. Our team, in addition to Tony and I, will have a couple members out and about, a couple of guys that we'll bring in along the way for perspective and commentary as well. Ty Schonert and Tom Tucker, our reporters from the WDAY and Flag Family Newsroom, are out and about tonight. They will be going around town to the various watch parties and talking with candidates on the scene tonight. They'll be checking in with us often during the course of the evening tonight, especially in our what you might call the pregame coverage before results start coming in. The polls are now closed, but it will take a little while. In the past, these primary election nights, we've typically gotten the information by 9:30, 9:45, but sometimes it can be a little later if the technology is not cooperating, or a little faster if everything is coming in very quickly. So we will have some voting out west in the Mountain Time Zone for some of the statewide races, governor and House of Representatives. So it may be a little bit later than that. We'll be here until all of the main storylines are told, and we're excited to do that for you tonight. Scott Hennen will be joining us a little bit later in the evening. He had some duties for his other job here at work on the business side. And then Jay Thomas from the Jay Thomas Show on WDAY will be joining us for some West Fargo-centric perspective, but also Jay's got a great sense of things on the statewide races as well. So we got a great team, and before we go any further, just want to say thank you to Gabe and JT and Addison and Michael for doing a ton of work behind the scenes to make this happen there tonight. They're the guys that nobody really knows about, but they are the VIPs of these evenings, and without them, we would not have programs to do for you. So big thanks to all of you guys, too. Our phone number, 701-271-1100. I cannot promise that we'll be able to get in a lot of phone calls tonight, but later on in the evening, maybe once the voting is in, the story is told, we'll be giving you a chance to express your opinions, what you thought about what happened tonight, how you interpret the results. But leading into the results, we're really going to try to talk about a lot of the races, a lot of the campaigns, and then talk to some of the candidates as they are putting they have put the finishing touches on their campaign and now are just waiting for all those results to come in. And in some cases, we're going to visit with Kelly Armstrong at 7:45. And in the case of Kelly's conversation, we're going to ask him, okay, so there is likely going to be a new U.S. House member minted tonight with the winner of the race that we were talking about. What should they know about going to D.C.? What will they be walking into? What do they need to be ready for? So we're going to give you some of those kind of perspectives as well. The next thing we want to talk about in our early coverage here is voting numbers. And Tony, the note that we got from Michael Howe yesterday morning was, we're a little concerned because there are only about 40,000 absentee and mail-in ballots voted along with the early votes came in. And he said in 2022, we had a historically low turnout and we had 50,000 votes that came in early and absentee. So he said, we're behind even like some of the worst numbers of all time. Now that actually leveled out a little bit. They ended up about 47,000 ballots counted by the end of the day yesterday. So, but they're still going to need a pretty hefty turnout to beat the pace from last year.
And I don't know where you voted. I was up at the Dome, because that's where I tend to vote. And I walked right in, and there were plenty of spots open. There was very few people in there. I think there was maybe 5 voters at the tables and a couple at the electronic. So when I went and voted, I was in and out like that. And that was in the morning. I voted this morning. So that was a little weird. I've never been through that quickly. Now, I understand. People have gotten more used to the mail-in voting. They have gotten more used to early voting. The article I'm looking at from yesterday says 4,200 early votes this year, up from previous years, right? So maybe not as many, mail-in ballots, but it seems as though people are getting more and more into the early voting.
Yes.
So that does affect the lines on election day.
Yeah, so I went to Northview Church on 25th, just kind of south of 32nd, and I went in at lunch. I was there right at noon, and I'm same as you. I walked in, there was nobody, there was several people voting, but nobody waiting, able to get in fairly quickly. I was in and out in 5 minutes. It was glorious, and I thought I might have to wait. I did have a friend of mine text me later, and he said, I went to Northview at 5 o'clock after, Ronnie Lee from WDAY Radio. He said, I went to Northview and there was about 30, 35 people waiting, but I was in and voting in about 5 minutes. And so I imagine a lot of people after work were going to get the voting done. But yeah, morning and afternoon, we'd heard that it had not been very busy.
So have they had new numbers since the closure of the polls?
No, there won't be any numbers. New updates on that. It's just the early stuff being counted. So, but we will not really, they don't have like, here's how many people voted at 3 o'clock today versus 3 o'clock in years past.
Right.
We're going to hit the main races tonight. There's not much to cover on the Democrat side tonight because a lot of those races are one candidate and the candidate will automatically move through. A reminder that the Fargo City Commission is under the approval voting. That's the only one of the races that is. And City of Fargo is unique that way, but you can vote for as many of the, I think there's 7 candidates for City Commission as you want to there. So we'll be talking a little bit about that as well. All right, one of the great parts of this evening is to have our great reporters working the community, checking in from different places with updates, and we're going to send it over to senior reporter Tom Tucker, and he's out about in the town tonight. Hi, Tom, where are you at, and who are you visiting with?
Hey, Steve. Hey, Tony. I'm at the CJ's at Rose Creek in South Fargo, and not visiting with anyone other than Jordan, one of the owners here, getting prepped for all the Republicans anticipated to come here tonight. There's just a couple people walking through the door right now. It's still obviously very quiet here right now, but we do expect this to be a hot spot once the night gets moving forward here. Some of the Republicans that we are told that will be here include Deanne Reed running for West Fargo City Commission, Al Carlson running for Fargo City Commission, Ali Ohlenberger running for Fargo School Board, Paul Moorer also running for Fargo School Board, and Michelle Turnberg running for Fargo City Commission. So we do anticipate a busy night here. We do anticipate a big crowd. I was just on the phone with Deanne Reed a couple of moments ago. She tells me she is on the way, and as soon as she gets here, I'll be looking to cut an interview with her as well. But that's the situation from here at CJ's, Steve and Tony here in South Fargo.
Sounds great, Tom. Thanks very much for the update. We'll visit with you later in the hour. Tony, one of the fun things about this evening is the candidates for school board and city council. These are non-party races,
Yep.
and so you never really quite know where they stand until election night. Then they go to the Democrat or the Republican watch party, and then you kind of figure it out. So we'll have a few of those here tonight. One of our other reporters working the community tonight is our own Ty Schonert, and he's standing by with Fargo School Board candidate John Campbell. Ty, take it away.
Thank you. So, John Campbell, I'm outside your home right now, not outside Kingpin's or outside CJ's. So tell me about how you're feeling right now.
The response from the community is great. The support that's been shown to me has been awesome. I'm excited to see what the results are. I'm excited to should I be elected, get started on some of the things that I would like to see changed and some of the things that Fargo has mentioned to me about being changed and getting some of those questions answered that people have and things like that.
So I imagine a lot of people probably feel jitters when they're in an election. I've talked to people in the past about the elections, and they kind of feel nervous. How do you feel right now?
Well, I'm a family guy, so I had all my family over. I made dinner, so I kept my hands busy, my mind busy. Yes, I would say it's always a little bit nerve-wracking when your name is out there and you're hoping people align or like what you're saying and things like that. So I would say little jitters or a little healthy tension is what I'm feeling.
Fargo School Board was unique in its race, too, because it kind of got a lot of attention locally. Of course, it's going to get attention. It's a local race, but uniquely so. Fargo School Board's kind of been in the news a lot recently for various reasons. How does it feel to kind of put your hat in such a almost public way like that? You talked previously how it could be potentially stressful for you, but talk about this race specifically, yeah. Yeah,
I think it has been up and down over the years, I guess, and maybe more so in the last year or two. Putting my name out there and things like that. I'm just who I am, and so my foundation has just been utilized, and so I'm hoping that some of that comes through. We can start to make some headway in areas with teachers and some headway with how transparency goes and things like that, so that Fargo and the students, most of all, are served best.
12 hours from now, hopefully we should know every election count that there is. Let's say you do get on the board. What's some of your first actions you're going to be taking?
Well, I need to probably find out when I need to report. It'd probably be the first thing. Just getting comfortable with the procedures, reviewing the policies again, asking questions of former board members and things like that. I have a background in mentorship, so I look to others to give me some of their suggestions and things like that, and I take those and help prepare myself for my own, my own curriculum or my own opinion forming and things like that. So probably, just getting prepped up that way, taking some of the concerns that citizens had given to me and getting those into the right spaces.
Is there anything that you would think about for this campaign you would try and do differently or do again? Is there anything in this that you think maybe weren't too aggressive on or not aggressive enough on something, or maybe something along those lines? Do you think there's anything thinking back on the campaign and how you ran it?
Well, sometimes I have thought, maybe being a little bit more pointed or direction oriented on exactly what I'm going to do. The one thing that I'm glad that I didn't just press upon my opinion on. There's 8 other board members, there's other opinions and things like that matter, and that so I like to have all the information before I put my stamp on something. And so if I had to do anything a little bit different, I might try to align myself a little bit more with some of the other board members on what their thinking is and how that is misaligned with our community and our teachers and things like that, and try to work on some of the things prior to being on the board. So other than that, I've been proud of how I carried myself and how things have gone.
The last and most important
Good
question.
stuff. Ty, we're going to sneak along here just real quick, just because we've got an interview we need to get to with the head of Cass County elections. But Ty, we'll check back with you in a little bit. Tell John thanks so much for taking the time, and we'll check back with Ty here just in a couple of minutes. We want to turn our focus now to what's going to happen tonight in the process of seeing the precincts report. When will the mail-in and absentee ballots, when will the early votes be counted, and when might we have some final numbers? Craig Steinard is Cass County's election administrator, and he's been kind enough to join us here this evening on the program to talk about a few of those details. There have been 6 polling places around the community where people have been voting early, and now a long day of voting today. And do we have Craig right now, Addison? Okay. So we're just waiting to connect with him. But this has kind of become a tradition on our election coverage, just to find out, basically, when do we think we might have some results tonight? Is this going to be a late night? Do we think by 9:30, 10 o'clock? Is it all going to be in by 9? So the people that run the elections, Mike Montplaisir did it for so many years, and Mike was a staple on our election coverage because of all the knowledge that he had and that kind of expertise. So we're going to be talking with Craig here just in a moment. We'll be visiting with Fargo Mayor Tim Mahoney about 7:35 on what the new commissioners would be walking into, if there are new commissioners in the city of Fargo, as we have been visiting with you about over the campaign coverage. John Strand, Arlette Preston, the 2 incumbents, are up for re-election, and they have chosen to run, in addition to a number of new candidates that would be new faces on that board as well. Al Carlson, Anna Johnson, Nate Poland, Delson Santal, and Michelle Turnberg, 5 people who hope to be one of the next Fargo City commissioners. So a lot of interesting stories there. In West Fargo, we will have 2 for sure. That we will have 2 brand new commissioners because Mark Simmons and Mandy George have both elected not to run, so there are 5 people running for those 2 positions, and we will definitely have new faces there. All right, we're pleased to be joined right now on the newsline by Craig Steinard, Cass County Election Administrator. Craig, we know that it's an unbelievably crazy day for you, so we really appreciate your help. Overall, how would you say things have been going across the county today? Are you liking what you're hearing about how the voting has happened today?
Yeah, I would definitely have to say that it has been a very enjoyable day. All of our polling locations have been running smoothly. Poll workers seem to be happy working at Cass County, which is always a good sign, too. And voters seem to be happy, too. We got a lot of people coming out, and it's a good thing.
So what happens tonight? Obviously, the polls are now closed, and the counting has begun, and the precincts will start their reporting fairly soon. Give us the order of how things might report. A lot of people are going to be watching the North Dakota Secretary of State's website because that's where we're at right now, and we're all kind of watching to see when those numbers start being tabulated. What will happen, and if you could give special attention to when the absentee and early votes, if they're being loaded in first or last, if you could just walk us through kind of the order in which votes will be posted to the website tonight.
Yeah, certainly. So for us, we basically we receive in by location. So all of our vote centers, they will make their way onto the courthouse as soon as they get closed up. So as far as time frames go, it kind of can depend. You know, some of the bigger sites might take a little longer to get to us. Smaller sites might take a little bit shorter time. Also, we have some out in Tower City, right? So it's going to take a little bit of time for Tower City to get over to us. But as those locations come over to the courthouse with their results, I will then get those results uploaded to the Secretary of State's website, and then it'll essentially be like live data that's going up, right? So every time I have a location come in, I will do an upload, and then you'll see those results slowly climb their way up. So
What will happen? Will you take all of the I'll call it live voting for lack of a better way of saying it, but people that voted today, will that be loaded in first, and then the absentee and early votes come in late in one big data dump, and then the results are finalized? How is that going to happen?
Generally, yeah. So most of the locations are going to get here before the early vote and absentee stuff is uploaded. So I would probably say that you'll see the locations get done first, and then the absentee results will come in, and then the early vote sites will have their results as well. But again, it'll be just kind of dependent on how those inspectors and judges are closing up and how much time it takes them. But yeah, no, that's generally how it would be.
For the races in Cass County, city commission, school boards, and so forth, what is your best guess on when we might have some final results tonight?
You know, if I were to give a guess, I mean, I would say probably by about 9:30 to 10 o'clock. It's an unofficial result just because we can't have any certified results until canvassing and everything 13 days later. But the unofficial results, we should have a good idea by around 9:30 to 10, as long as all those sites get into us by that time. And if we're lucky, maybe even earlier, maybe 9 o'clock we'll be all done and all the locations are in. So.
Will there be any kind of a calling of the race, if you will? So if it's mathematically impossible for another candidate to beat somebody in the lead, will that be marked out on the Secretary of State website so that people will be able to see? And like you said, it has to go through all the canvassing to be official. But as far as the results as it comes in, are we going to be able to see races being, quote, called as they're mathematically impossible for a challenger to win?
You know, that is actually a good question. It's not actually something I have thought about. It might be something the Secretary of State would be able to answer. On my end, I actually have never checked that.
Fair
I
enough.
don't think that there is, but yeah, I would definitely refer to that to the Secretary of State's office.
Yeah,
so.
Fair enough. Thank you very much. And I don't mean to put you on the spot with a lot of tough questions here either, but there are some races where this is the general election tonight, and then there are some where there is a winner in the primary, and then they go forward. But there are some kind of non-party, like judges and so forth. In the judges' races, are we going to have, so if there's three potential, or three entrants, are you going to have like two of the three then advance to the general election, or how does that happen?
I would have to double check, so don't quote me too much on this, but I'm pretty sure what would happen if there was three people that were on the ballot, and specifically in a judge race, let's just say that. I'm pretty sure it is the top two that would move on to the general to then go. But again, I'm a little spotty on that just because I haven't dug too deep on how the judges ones go or move on to the general.
Yeah,
I would imagine
problem.
that is how it works out.
Okay, yeah, we're looking at the District 5 Cass County commissioner, I guess, is the one we're looking at, not a judge race so much. But you've got three people there going, and you're voting for one. But we're trying to necessarily get a sense for who moves forward there. The judges, we do know, move forward to November. Cass County will be done tonight. So there's just some races that we were just trying
to. The commission races, yeah, that's how it will work with the commission races too, actually. So
they're done tonight.
Like District 5, right? They're not done tonight. So the top two from like District 5 will move on to the general.
I see. Okay, got it.
Yep.
Okay, so good. Well, we'll take a look and see what those look like as the night moves on. Have you had any reports of any irregularities or equipment malfunctions or anything like that that have been reported to you from the course of the voting day today?
No, like I kind of was mentioning earlier, we had a very smooth voting day. All of our sites were running very efficiently, and as far as I am aware, unless no one's told me, all the equipment was working well. So
okay, and if someone is kind of wondering what the turnout was today, do we have any sense of what the activity seemed like in the turnout today? Is there any way to know that, or is it really hard to guess that or to gauge that on an election day?
I don't have the exact number right now. I know that throughout the day we've been updating our website just with kind of like a update on check-ins throughout the day. If you go to our website, actually, so casscountynd.gov, under our elections page, you can actually see those totals. And like I said, I can't really give you numbers because I haven't looked at them here for a couple hours, but if anyone wants to go to our website, then you should be able to check out what we got to. So.
Okay, that sounds great. We'll make sure that we check that out. So really good. Well, we really appreciate you taking the time to visit with us and give us an update on what we know is a busy evening, Craig. And if we have any other late-breaking questions that we need to ask, we'll make sure to get in touch with you. Tony, any other questions that you had for Craig while we have him on the line?
No, my biggest concerns was the electronic voting machines and how people would respond to it. I used one. It was very slick.
Yeah, I did as well.
I'm glad to hear that there has been any issues.
Yeah. Good stuff. All right. Well, Craig, thanks so much. Yeah, thank you for taking the time, and we'll maybe visit later on in the evening. Thanks so much for giving us a few minutes.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You do the same. That's Cass County Election Administrator Craig Steinard joining us here on our coverage on AM 1100, The Flag, WZFG, and WDAY Radio. All right, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, Fargo Mayor Tim Mahoney is going to tell us what the new commissioners would be walking into if there are new commissioners coming into the City Commission here on primary night. Steve Hallstrom, Tony Gary, back with you after this.
The sounds of a sanctuary are just steps away. You can stroll through your own backyard and feel the peace and tranquility of a botanical garden. It's simple. Just start at Cheyenne Gardens in Harwood. If your backyard needs a few new flowers or you want to add a tree or shrub to go in just the right place, they have it at Cheyenne Gardens. Wander, admire, and explore the largest variety of trees, shrubs, and bedding plants in the area at Cheyenne Gardens, just 10 minutes north of Fargo on I-29.
Why destroy your yard trying to fix leaky pipes? With the New Flow system, your plumbing's back in hours instead of days, saving you thousands of dollars. From New Flow North Dakota, a division of H.A. Thompson & Sons. The New Flow system repairs broken pipes and removes roots and other debris permanently. The inflatable bladder inside the liner never allows roots to return. No digging, no destruction, no mess guaranteed. Call New Flow today to save money on your yard. New Flow, a division of H.A. Thompson & Sons. Call New Flow North Dakota today.
Tired of mowing, snow removal, maintenance, and the burden of owning a home? Give that up and move into a hassle-free experience to do more things your heart desires. Time is everything, so relax in a full amenity apartment that Centric Management can offer in downtown Fargo. Or experience the vibrant downtown life that offers everything from city waking up, shopping, unique restaurants, to the electric nightlife. Call Centric Management for a showing today, 701-407-6952, or go online at choosecentric.com.
50 years is a long time. A good long time when you're talking about Advanced Business Methods. Advanced Business Methods has been your locally owned office technology company for more than 50 years. Why do business with companies based somewhere else? Keep your money here in the community and support a local employee-owned business. Advanced Business Methods is your A-team for copiers, printers, and now managed IT services. Fast, reliable service too. Advanced Business Methods, 50 years and growing. Online at abmnow.com.
Election 2024 on WDAY Radio and The Flag.
Steve Hallstrom, Tony Gehrig here in studio from our South Fargo offices. Ty Schonert, Tom Tucker canvassing the community here, reporting on the street. We'll be visiting with Jay Thomas and Scott Hennen as the evening goes on as well. And you're a big part of what we're doing here tonight. If you would like to, you can watch us as well on YouTube tonight. Leave us a comment there if you've got a question. Be glad to answer your question best we can, or maybe ask your question to the right people. So whether you're listening or watching, we're really glad to have you here with us for primary night. It is a beautiful night outside, but we're happy to be inside tonight, bringing you the coverage that we have here for you this evening. No results are in yet as far as like any precincts reporting. We haven't had anything there, but we can tell you that based on what we're seeing from the Cass County primary election voting totals, that they're showing so far 11,972 ballots have been counted, and that was as of 5 p.m. today at the different locations around the area. It looks like probably the busiest location today was the Fargo Dome with about 1,500 people voting by 5 p.m., and then Northview Church in South Fargo at about 1,200 Atonement Lutheran Church at about 1,000 as well. So, Tony, anything about the numbers that surprises you there at all?
It seems low. There's some big races going on. I mean, having a new congressman, having a new governor, and obviously the local issues. So to me, it seems low. And maybe that's my perceptive, because when I walked in myself, it was so, there was no one there.
It was
quiet. So maybe that's just a perception I have. But yeah, I would think there'd be more.
We'll see. It sounded like from the places that I heard about today that activity after work was a little busier than lunch hour and in the morning. So hopefully that's the case, and a lot of people have been able to get out and vote today. We are pleased to be joined by Fargo Mayor Tim Mahoney right now, and while he is not up for election here in this primary cycle, he could potentially gain a couple of new coworkers on the Fargo City Commission. Mayor Mahoney, thank you very much for taking the time. I guess it's probably kind of nice when you're not up for election, you can relax a little bit more than you might normally be able to on this night.
Yeah, it's great. I don't have to worry about the election results, so it's just kind of fun to watch. And Tony knows it's kind of with a quiet election cycle as far as commission race. I thought I'd have a lot more yard signs and other things going on. It just did not seem as noisy as it normally is, and maybe that's because Garrick wasn't in the race. But it just seemed, a little quieter as far as the race getting out. And Tony, to the numbers, 11,000 I'm pleased with, but I don't think we're going to hit like the 15,000, 16,000. I do think that it's not as we thought we'd get good numbers. I hope maybe it goes up a little bit, but I'm at least pleased we're at 11,000, maybe headed towards 14, 15.
Yeah, is that kind of where we've been before? We've heard a lot of numbers statewide on where we've been in past elections, but in the city of Fargo, is that 14,000, 15,000 marker, is that kind of where we've been on some of our busier primaries?
Yeah, it seems that we usually end up in that level as it goes. When you had the mayor's race, we maybe pushed a little more because you had the mayor and the commissioners going for it.
Right.
I think that if we get anywhere from 14 to 16,000, I'd be pleased with that, because at least we got enough numbers out there that people make their choice.
Tim, Tony here. Do you generally endorse candidates who are running for commission? I can't remember you doing it in the past, but I know you didn't do it this year. So, one, do you generally endorse candidates? And two, why did you choose not to this year, especially with two incumbents?
Well, it's an interesting race here. We have a good point. But Denny Wallaker endorsed Melissa Solvik in one race, and then Piepkorn won the next time, and then he could never work with Piepkorn for the whole session. So I learned a lesson. You got to be very careful. You better pick a winner. And the loser coming back also sometimes makes it hard. So it's hard for me. Sometimes you'd want to endorse some people. Yeah, it's good people running, but I like to let the people decide who they work or who they put there. And we work with whoever wins, and that happens. And Tony, you and I had disagreements, but you represented a certain segment of the population, and we won't learn to work with that. So I like really just whatever the people put up there for me, that's what I'm going to work with. And I don't like to influence that decision. I like people to make their own minds up.
Tim, did when you look at the field of candidates coming in, you've got the two incumbents, Arlette Preston and John Strand, and then you had 5 newcomers to that race. And certain people like Al Carlson, Michelle Turnberg were names that maybe people knew. Anna Johnson had worked on the Human Rights Commission. So there was some people that had some experience, but maybe not in the Fargo City Commission. When you saw what the list looked like of these 7 candidates, were you pleased with the kind of selection that we were able to get with this bunch?
Yeah, we have some really smart people that are running for the position, and I like that. We had a variety of different people running for different reasons. I think it gave the voters some choices that a lot of times we don't have. And I think, Tony, you ran 3 times before you first won, but I think that giving them the choice of seeing some different candidates really is helpful. I was a little disappointed. I'd offered to meet with all the candidates, prior to the election, just to tell them what goes on in city government. And Al Carlson came and asked me about budget issues, but everybody else kind of did their own thing. But, and we've had up to 15 people run for commission, so I was pleased it was not that big a number, and I think it gives the voters more clear choices. They can kind of look at each person and say, this person I like, and that's what I'm hoping for, is that they looked through the candidates and found out who they like. The other thing I was really surprised about is the League of Women's Voters had an event one night. As you know, you guys had events as well. And people didn't show up into the chambers. People just watched it online. So it's kind of like the campaign has changed a little bit. And I think Tony would recall when we had many of our debates, had a room full of people, and you sometimes would get at least some response of the crowd, right? You'd say something,
Sure.
yeah, we agree or don't agree. It really changes it when you just have social media, you're reading, and it's just you're purely getting the candidate's, vision or whatever, and you don't get cheers or claps or anything like that. So I do think at least the public was allowed to look at every candidate and good questions. Steve, you guys had great questions. I like the questions. I would have liked to rebut a few of them, but otherwise,
okay.
it was a good discussion. And that's why I say I love city commission races. Get out there, say what they want to say, and that really, I think, gives people opportunity to weigh which candidate they like.
Well, Mayor, we can set up a time for that rebuttal. There's no question about that. And we've had some spirited conversations, but always friendly and cordial ones. And so I'm sure that we would. I want to ask you about what you think the commission needs, and maybe not a comment that you're not getting it currently, but what do you think the city commission needs going forward that you hope the people, whether they are the two incumbents, get reelected, whether there are two new faces, but what do you think the city commission needs more of in the days ahead?
Well, it's focus. It's really the focus of where the commission is going, and what I have sometimes is a lot of distractions going on. Just had a Japanese delegation come in to want to work with Fargo. We got the Ag Week going on. We have so many dynamic things going on in the city. Let's go into the business of making the city the greatest it can be and make sure we have economic drivers that help us make the community better. But the other thing is that you have social issues. Let's address them. Let's go forward and do different things. But you and I know we've invested a lot of money downtown. Tony knows that, and we want that to be successful. But we want our whole community to be successful. So I think we really have to focus on is what are the next big steps that make Fargo great. And that's where you need to put your focus is balance the budget, make the budget work, make everything work within the community. And you're going to see the growth plan come out. There's great goals in the growth plan. We have to look at that and expedite it, make it happen. So I think you have to have some people focused on not making headlines, but making get the work done.
I want to dive into that for a minute, Mayor, because when the commissioners come in for the next session, whether they are the incumbents or newcomers, what are they walking into? What are some of the bigger issues that are going to be facing this commission in the next year?
Well, you have the issue of expenses versus revenue, and we have a salary gap in the city salaries right now, so we have to address that. And you also have to look at different modalities within the city of what's going on. Transit has incurred a big cost going on now because federal support has changed in that regards. And you have to look at the different things. If we do the Red River Valley water supply, how's that going to affect our utilities? So it's a lot of looking at different issues that you have to look at that have long-term consequences. So one of the themes that I've had to put out there more so is sustainability. You have to have a system that's sustainable in the long term. And actually, Tony was part of that as well. So we got to make something sustainable over the long term. So I think you have to focus on that. They minimize your expenses and watch what you're doing with the pocketbook and how you can make it better for. I'm especially concerned with people on fixed income, in a home in which values of their home have gone up, double, triple. And it just is not going to work for a lot of people. They don't have good retirement plans. They don't have good 401s. So I'm very concerned a lot of our people on fixed incomes, how they'll do in the next 10 years. So I think we really have to look at that as how we can make sure that our communities in the small neighborhoods and such survive and do well.
All right, last question for you, Mr. Mayor. This guy to my left here, Mr. Gehrig, do you want him back on this commission someday, or is he better off retired, do you think?
I enjoyed Tony. He brought up good points. He was a good debater, and we oftentimes had great discussions. Sorry you lost most of the time, but it was good to have fun.
He's not wrong. Well, Tim, you don't have to worry about it. You're retired from being a mayor in 2 years. So even if I ran this next time around, you'll be on the way out. But I would say you should endorse me then when I do run.
Okay. Well,
thanks, Tony.
There you go. All right. Tim, we appreciate the time. Thanks for taking a few minutes here on this evening for us. All the best. Have a good rest of the evening.
Yep. Enjoy the evening. Thanks.
Yeah,
guys.
thank you. Fargo Mayor Tim Mahoney joining us here on our election coverage. And I'll say this for the mayor, he and I disagree on a few things politically, but we have always had very affable conversations. And as we did there's always a few laughs in addition to some of the tough questions and tough answers that go back and forth. So we appreciate his time, and he's always been very accessible to us, and that matters too. So
I think one of the most important things that he didn't touch on with a new commissioner is personalities, because everyone's gonna come in there, and a lot of people when they first come in, like I did, they want to change some stuff, right? So you have to work with the other commissioners to do that. Sometimes it gets heated, you know what I mean? You definitely disagree. There's a lot of passion. There's a lot of different ideas floating around. And one thing Tim Mahoney was very good at, even though we disagreed all the time, was that he would at least listen to you. You know what I mean? And hear you out, and then he'd give his counterpoint, and then you go vote. But that's one thing I think that with a new commissioner, especially with a new guy or girl coming in who's never done it before, that I think is kind of a learning curve to deal with those other personalities.
Trying to fit in. I mean, it's an elite club. No question. There's only 5 of them. And people on that commission tend to have some strong personalities and some strong ideas. And so you've got to try to work together with people, but at the same time stand up for what you think is right, because with only 5 of you, you may be the only one that has that particular stance on a certain issue. So it's an important one. You brought up the mayor in 2 years from now. I had forgotten about that there is a retirement coming up there.
So he's reached his end of time. 12 years as mayor. That's the term limit. It's same as a commissioner. The only exception is you can do 3 terms as a commissioner and then 1 as mayor. Okay, so if you've done that 3 terms, you can do that last one. But if you do 2 years as a commissioner, you can only do 1 as mayor then.
Okay.
So it's a little goofy. Our so-called term limits are a little off. It's provable because we went to court last year for it, or 2 years ago, so to see if Tim could run again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's right.
So it's a little goofy, but yeah, this will be his last term and 2 years left. That's it.
Have you ruled out running again someday?
Someday, maybe. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's I try to stay active here on the radio and in the public and with opinions and stuff. And I wrote an op-ed not too long ago.
Okay.
And try to stay relevant and stay involved. And who knows? When my kid gets a little older, we'll look at it and see if I need a hobby.
Yeah, well, when the kids are young, you don't have time for hobbies.
Yeah,
you and I both know that well. We are continuing to watch the Secretary of State website, which will be posting the results of the precincts as they report. And here we are about 46 minutes past the closing of the polls. And at this point, nothing has been reported, so we're still watching and waiting like everybody else is on that. There are a few areas, counties out in the Mountain Time Zone, so they will be reporting a little bit later in the evening as well. Thanks to those of you who are watching on our YouTube channel. We appreciate those of you who have tuned in there. You can ask us a question or leave a comment for us there if you would like. So thanks for being here with us on this program here tonight. We've seen, I think, a number of tactics in this race, Tony, and I want to ask you about this while we're expecting a call from current Congressman Kelly Armstrong and Governor Hopeful as well. Want to ask you a little bit about some of the tactics that we've seen in this race. We saw some very pointed ads coming out from the Armstrong campaign, taking aim at Tammy Miller very early. Yep. And then, of course, then that ensued. There's been a lot of back and forth between Becker and Fedorchik's campaigns. Yep. What are you seeing as far as the way elections are conducted, the way campaigning is conducted here, and how that's maybe changed over the years?
I think that taking on the other individual has become more of a tactic that people use. Even here locally, I remember a couple of races I had where the people who I was running against would bring me up a lot, right? They would say about whatever answer I gave, they would say, well, Tony's wrong and here's why I'm right, which isn't a bad thing. That's fine. But usually, if you look at like the school board and the park board, they usually just talk about the issues. They don't really talk about the people at all. Then you get this higher level, like the Armstrong campaign and the Miller campaign. And you're right, it went negative pretty quick, right away. And not necessarily the individuals, but the PACs and all that kind of stuff went negative right away. And I think one of the things that really hurt Tammy in this campaign was the ad about the defending a guy who was accused of some very awful things with a minor or with 2 minors. And I think that from everyone I've talked to didn't like it. All right,
didn't go well.
It didn't go the way they planned. So there's definitely a chance where it goes wrong when you go negative, but it tends to get people's attention. So I understand why people do it.
Yeah. And I don't know why they continue to do that. They must have statistics and data that say they work. But I just don't. It's hard for me to believe that somebody is going to see a text message or a campaign ad about, Kelly Armstrong is selling drugs to kids in the school. Like nobody believes half of that, right? And you kind of almost lose, some kind of credibility when you say those things. And I can't believe that those ads work, but they must, because it's not just here, but nationwide races.
I think you can see who's almost winning by the amount of negative ads you're seeing about them. That's why I truly believe that Rick Becker is going to win this election, because I saw so many negative ads about Rick on TV, on radio, all over the place. And I texted Rick at one point and said, I think you're going to win this thing. In Fargo, all I see is negative about you.
So you don't believe the last poll at +7 for Fedorchak?
I don't.
Okay.
I really don't.
I think it's going to be close. It'll be an interesting night to watch, or an interesting race to watch here this evening. We are pleased to be joined right now by Congressman Kelly Armstrong, running in the North Dakota governor's primary on the Republican side against Tammy Miller. And Kelly's been kind enough to take a couple minutes out of his night. Kelly, you're always good to give us some time. We appreciate it very much. Where are you at tonight, and who are you hanging out with?
So we are at the Gateway to Science in Bismarck and having a celebration of a well-run campaign. And my daughter works here, and it's just a great facility overlooking the the Missouri River in Bismarck, and it's been great.
How do you feel about how the campaign went for you here in this primary?
I think the short version of this is hire whoever your best friend is, hire them and make them your chief of staff or your campaign manager. And Roz Layton's been with me since 2015, and she has executed everything we've tried to execute, and then we have done everything we can to go from one end of the state to the other and talk and listen to as many North Dakotans as we can. And so tonight is a night of, it's like getting on an airplane. It's kind of out of our hands on Election Day, so we're just going to enjoy the ride.
Kelly, Steve brought up a point about the negative ads. You've been in politics for some time now. Have you seen an uptick in the quality and quantity of these negative ads?
Well, I don't know if I've seen an uptick in the quality. I think the quantity is a different take on some of that stuff. This is the first campaign we've ever done that, but I just remember after I got done 2 years ago, I told somebody, I don't even remember who, I said, it's the last time I'm running a race the way we wish they were ran, and not the way they actually are run. But it's not just here. Everybody says they hate them, but there's a reason that people do them. And particularly in primaries, and particularly in places like North Dakota, because if you look at the history of our state since 1992, and Ed Schaefer won the governorship, we've had Republican supermajorities that we helped elect when we were at the state party. So you got to contrast yourself from your opponent somehow, and they're a way to do it. But I also say this, and this is just my race. The advertising part of it is one small part of a campaign. TV, radio, flyers, all of that. We've also done over 120 media interviews since we announced 4 months ago. We try and get out and talk to everybody. So, it's easier to deal with one part of the campaign if you try and be, I don't know if aggressive is the right word, but we're aggressively available to the media in North Dakota.
Kelly, if no matter what happens here, you're going to be giving up your seat in Congress as the lone U.S. House of Representative member here from North Dakota. Somebody is going to take that position, and it likely will be a Republican if past history holds. What advice would you give to them, whether that's Rick Becker, Julie Fedorchak, Alex Balas, whomever that might be? What advice would you give them going into Washington, D.C. as far as what they're walking into?
Well, I'll tell you, I would tell them to do the same thing that I did with, at that time, Congressman, then to be Senator Kramer. When you get the opportunities, get out there. Let us introduce you to. Half of the reason I was able to succeed right away was because Kevin was so gracious with his time and took me out, introduced me to certain different people. There's certain things about Congress that if you've never served there, you don't know anything about. And if you can figure those things out, it takes a little of the fear of the unknown away. So regardless of who wins, we're going to work really hard to make sure that they have all the institutional stuff. We're not going to tell them how to do their job. Nobody would ever, Kevin never did that to me. I would never do that to them. but like, where the bathrooms are matter. And what committees do you want to be on? How can we help you? Who are the right people to talk to people about that? So we're going to be excited to help whoever it is.
And Kelly, do you have a prediction of who's going to take over your seat?
I don't. I have been very, very. I mean, I think turnout. I think turnout is important. I mean, there could be a lot of different things. I do think, in all honesty, it's a two-person race at this point. I think Alex Laws has been like a really awesome surprise. But when you're unknown and just in that kind of situation, I mean, I think it's going to come down to Julie and Rick, and I think it could be very close.
Did you endorse anybody in that race, Kelly?
I didn't, for two reasons. One, I've worked really hard to help get Republicans all across the state elected for the last 10 years. This time we were going to put our oxygen mask on and let other people deal with that. And then the other answer is just quite simply from the answer I just gave you. Whoever wins, I want to succeed, and I want to be able to help them through the transition and do those things.
Very good. Well, Kelly, we appreciate your time. We know there's a lot going on. We wish you the best. Thanks for joining us here on the program for a little bit. We might talk to you later in the evening if it works out.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot, Kelly. Kelly Armstrong, congressman, and he hopes that he will be the next governor. And it'll be Merill Piepkorn on the Democrat side, Tony, against whomever wins that race there. How do you see that? Can that be a competitive race?
No, I would. No.
Okay.
We tend to have a Fargo mindset around here where Fargo is relatively purple, right? I don't think it's red. I don't think it's anything else or blue. So I think that a large part of our population, it's 50-50. So out west is a different ballgame. It's much more conservative out there. And I don't think, Merill Piepkorn, who is from this region of the state, it's hard. It's hard to run from this region of the state, and that's why Doug Burgum was such a surprise to a lot of people that he took that race the way he did. Yeah,
he's got a good message. I think he appeals to people who kind of want something different, but the numbers are what they are in this state, no question about that.
I'll have him on my show here coming up too as well.
Well, there you go.
I'm working with getting him on.
All right.
Yep.
Let's send it out now to senior reporter Tom Tucker, and he is over at Rose Creek at CJ's restaurant hanging out with some of the folks there that are watching the results come in when they start coming in here in a little bit. Tom, take it away.
Hey, Steve. Thanks. Nice to be with you guys tonight. Joining me now is Deanne Reed. She is a candidate for West Fargo City Commission. Deanne, you are a political newcomer and a relative newcomer as well to the city of West Fargo. What are you thinking? What are you feeling tonight? What's going through your head, your heart, and your mind?
Well, first of all, I'm so glad there's no rain. That's wonderful, right? I went out and I mowed my grass today, and I didn't have to walk on sponge. That was great. No, I'm feeling good. I mean, there's always a little bit of a low-level anxiety, I think, a little bit when you're running for office because you just don't know what the outcomes are going to be. But I'm feeling good, and I feel like the citizens of West Fargo will make the right decision.
You have talked a lot about special assessments and your desire to do something there. At least one other candidate has said that nothing can be done to change specials and the fact that homeowners and property owners have to pay those. Talk about what you've heard from citizens on that topic and if elected, what you might do to address it.
Yeah. So when I'm out knocking on doors, one of the first things that I say to people is you do realize that this is not normal what West Fargo does. It's not normal what Fargo does. It's not normal what Horace does. In other states, they don't even do special assessments this way. Typically, it's very limited. They don't use it as a mechanism for infrastructure development. Most cities use their property taxes. So my plan, when I share my plan with people, when I knock on doors and I tell them what my plan is, which is basically take the $10 million or whatever it is, and I would even say if we got rid of the TIFs, that would probably cover that amount of money. But incorporate that into the general budget, and then the city plans out how much do I need for my citizens in order to meet my infrastructure needs for the city. And that way everyone is paying into it. It totally can be done. Cities across the country do it every single day. There's some tiny little things that you can do along the way too. In Nebraska, when Dave and I lived there, we did a wheel tax that helped as well to take care of the infrastructure needs, particularly the roads. In some states, they do a fee onto your utility bill, so that takes care of your sewer. So there's a lot of little tiny things, and I've been using the term low, sustainable, and predictable because, Tom, when a family gets a $5,000 or a $50,000 assessment, that is unpredictable. And when I tell people that there's a better way, they smile at me and they say, wow, I had no idea.
Mm-hmm. growth is always a topic of conversation when it comes to West Fargo. Is the city growing too fast?
100%. And in fact, I would say when we can't take care of our infrastructure needs that are north of the highway or the interstate, that's a sign to me that we aren't able to take care of what we've got in front of us. And I would even say when we're having to go back and repave roads because developers haven't had better oversight, that's an indication to me that we're not managing our growth well.
All right, Deanne Reed, candidate for West Fargo City Commission. Thanks so much for the time tonight. We appreciate it and wish you all the best moving forward.
Thank you, Tom.
All right, Steve, that's it from here at CJ's in South Fargo. Back to you guys in the studio.
Thank you very much, Tom. Tony, I've got to get a quick comment from you. I from what we heard there from Deanne, her idea to rework, eliminate, whatever you want to call it, special assessments is using some TIF money and then different maybe taxation measures. So is that a solution that you think works? Is there something there?
Yeah, I mean, it's very similar to what I proposed here in the city of Fargo. If we manage, our different taxes are different ways. If we had a $40 road tax for every house and call it $100 for every business, we could eliminate specials altogether right there. It's not that much money that we need every year. We first need to start by eliminating the special assessments for new homes. That is nothing but a debt the city holds and just gives to the taxpayer right off the top. So the reason we do that is to promote home building. We started that decades ago. That was the stated reason for it. Well, we're building a lot of homes these days. And like Deanne said, West Fargo is probably growing too fast because they cannot keep up with their infrastructure. So you've got to take that debt load off of the taxpayers, and it's absolutely doable, especially in places like Fargo and West Fargo.
This sounds like a really good radio show for another day.
But
a lot
absolutely
of good conversation there. All right, it is 8:01 on WDAY and WZFG, Dilworth, Fargo, Moorhead, West Fargo, USA, and you are listening to continuing coverage of Primary Night 2024. Steve Hallstrom, Tony Gehrig here with you. We're going to check back in with Ty Schonert as he's working the streets of Fargo and West Fargo, checking in with some of the candidates, and we'll check in with Ty when we return here on WDAY and WZFG, The Flag.
Need a boost? Head for a PetroServe USA location near you. 3 16-ounce Red Bulls, only $8 on special all month long. Glenwood 10-ounce package of jerky is $9.99. Stone Creek nuts and mixes $1.39. Blue Diamond just 99 cents a package. How about Hostess assorted snacks? Always good, $1.29. And the big 28-pack of water by Nestle, $4.69. And for that sweet tooth, Twizzlers Strawberry Twist, $2.19. These deals and many more at a PetroServe USA near you.
Hey, John, why so glum?
I just got let go. The company's downsizing. This is the third time in the last 2 years. I'm done with this.
Have you thought about My Computer Career? I've heard they can train you for a career in IT in just a few months, including cybersecurity and the basics of AI. And you don't need prior training or experience. Now that's a recession-resistant career.
Wow, thanks. I'll check them out.
Go to mycomputercareer.edu and take the free career evaluation. mycomputercareer.edu. Financial aid is available for qualified students, including the GI Bill.
PrizePicks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. Get in on the playoff action as you and the world's best players take the game to a new level during basketball's postseason. Download the app right now. Use the code ROAM for a first deposit match of up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. You do have to be present in certain states. Visit prizepicks.com for restrictions and details.
Whether it's on the farm or around the fleet, your service truck can be the lifeblood of your farm. If your diesel service isn't running like it used to, then talk to the team at ATI Fargo. If you have a 2011 to 2023 6.7 Power Stroke that needs a little love, ATI Fargo is the place to take it. From turbo failures and oil leaks to solid solutions for your emissions issues. The crew at ATI Fargo knows these engines inside and out, and they have a 2-year, 24,000-mile warranty on all new parts. That's ATI Fargo.
They are detectives, investigators, school resource officers and deputies, state attorneys, jail chaplains, beat cops and canine handlers. They are the honorees of the Luther Family Ford Salute to Law Enforcement. Everyone at Luther Family Ford says thank you to the men and women who protect and serve our community. They deserve our support, our encouragement, and our thanks. So thank you to all of you who protect and serve us. From Luther Family Ford and AM 1100 The Flag, WZFG.
When it comes to grain storage and handling solutions, one call does it all. Gateway Building Systems is one of the largest Brock bin dealers in the U.S. Our expert team is dedicated to creating a customized plan for your future success. Expanding your operation has never been easier with our range of Brock solid bins, grain dryers, conveyors, and more. As your trusted partner, we are committed to serving the needs of farmers. Take the first step toward success and call Gateway Building Systems today.
At Bagan Strand Vision, a team of board-certified ophthalmologists offer the latest in premium lens cataract surgery, including the exciting new light adjustable implant technology. Bagan Strand Vision also offers bladeless LASIK with eye design, minimally invasive glaucoma surgery, and treatments for a wide variety of eye conditions. Dr. Strand, Dr. Bagan, and Dr. Winkles are native North Dakotans with a combined over 70 years of experience. Call their office to learn more about these dramatic advancements in eye care. Bagan Strand Vision. Experience you can trust.
Hey, did you know one of the largest U.S. flags in the state of Georgia stands proudly in Pure Talk's parking lot? Now, it's in honor of that flag and what it stands for that Pure Talk is now supporting America's Warrior Partnership in their mission to prevent veteran suicide. Ask a vet. The transition to civilian life can be very difficult, especially in this economy. Access to housing, employment, even getting their earned VA benefits can be really hard. Now, that's where America's Warrior Partnership steps in. They provide fundamental needs to our warriors. You can help this great cause simply by switching before Flag Day to my cell phone company, Pure Talk. Now, choose a wireless company that shares your values. Upgrade your cell phone service to America's most dependable 5G network for just $20 a month. You just dial pound 250, say the keyword SAVE NOW. Pure Talk's U.S. customer service team will help you make the switch. Just dial pound 250 and SAVE NOW for superior cell phone service. That's half the price of Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile, and you get the help of vet in need.
Election 2024 on WDAY Radio and The Flag.
Rolling into hour number 2 of our coverage, the polls have been closed for a little more than an hour. No results posted to the official websites yet. We are continuing to catch up with some of the candidates as they reflect on the campaigns and await the results to come in. Jay Thomas is standing by with Rory Jorgensen, one of the 5 candidates. There will be 2 new city commissioners in West Fargo, Tyler Erickson, Rory Jorgensen, Deanne Reed, John Severson, and Amy Zundel. And Jay is standing by with Rory right now. Hey, Jay.
How you doing, buddy? I'm excited. I don't get excited about this stuff, but man, I'm really excited about the West Fargo race, the Fargo race. Even though I have a dog in that fight, I mean, we got good candidates, Steve.
We do. We absolutely do. And I think in West Fargo, you've got 5 really good ones. You might actually send a few more to Fargo because there are some really good people that are in it for the right reasons and have a lot of experience and have done a lot of homework.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. At least in West Fargo, and I think Fargo too, we have candidates that aren't in this for an ego. These are candidates that love the city.
Yeah. They
love their city. For the most part, they know the city. We're going to be sitting good out here.
Yeah, we sure are. Interesting to see how the race goes. The 2 current city commissioners, Mark Simmons and Mandy George, opting not to run for re-election. And so that opens up the scene for a couple of new faces.
Yeah, Mandy George, of course, leaving because her career has just skyrocketed. Now a pilot, which is a great story. I had her on my show about a month ago, how she's not even 20 years ago didn't know how to fly a plane, and now she is, a co-pilot for Delta Airlines. And and she realized, look, I can't do that, and I can't be a full, do the job the way I should be able to do it for the city of West Fargo. And then you got Mark Simmons, who's got 20 years with the city, and he just, hey, it's time to give the seat to somebody else. So, yeah, we got great candidates ready to fill those seats.
What do you think?
I got one of them sitting with me.
There you go. Who do you have with you?
I have candidate Rory Jorgensen, of course, born, raised here in West Fargo, knows West Fargo, rural fire chief for years. He's very fiscally conservative. He's very all about, okay, how are we spending this money? Are we doing this the right way? Citizens come first with Rory, and I'm going to let you talk to Rory.
That sounds great, Rory. We appreciate you jumping on. I actually had Rory on my show yesterday on the flag and had a chance to get some of his thoughts on things. Rory, how are you feeling about everything now that you're kind of all the work is done, the hay is in the barn, and now we just got to see how it turns out? What are the emotions tonight?
I'm feeling pretty positive. Got a lot of good vibes. When I went into this campaign, I had a lot of support, and I think it's going to pay forward. So I'm feeling good. Can't wait to see the results coming.
Rory, Tony Gehrig here. I had you on my show as well, by the way. It was a good interview. So let's say that you get one seat there. Who do you want to work with in that second seat as a newcomer?
That's a great question. It's a hard question. Like everybody said, there's 5 good candidates. So, all of them bring great ideas to the table. So it's going to be up to the people in town to decide which way they want to go with what they're believing from the candidates.
Fair enough.
Rory, what's the biggest thing that the city commission in the next year is going to have to tackle and get really serious about for the people?
Well, it's always the budget, right? I mean, when I get elected, I'm going to sit up there and it's not my money, but I'm going to be frugal about it because it is my money. So it's going to be my open-mindedness, my ability to be approachable and listen to the people, and let's try to slow down the tax base in this town. So the first thing is the budget, and right now the city's in the middle of creating the budget for next year and still trying to get through the audits from last year. So the budget's the first thing on the list.
Well, Rory, we appreciate you taking a few minutes here with us, and we may very well be in touch with you as the evening goes on. But thanks for doing this, and keep Jay out of trouble wherever you guys are hanging out there, okay?
Stop. All right. Thanks, gentlemen.
Thanks so much. Rory Jorgensen, Jay Thomas checking in from West Fargo. Let's go to Ty Schonert now. He's standing by with Katrina Christianson. And Katrina is running unopposed in the primary in the Democrat side for U.S. Senate. And she will advance to November to ultimately take on Kevin Kramer, who will go unopposed tonight as well and move through to November as well. Ty, take it away.
Hi, Katrina. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing great. It's awesome to see democracy at work.
So I see you shaking a lot of hands here tonight. We're at Kingpins right now and just kind of enjoying the festivities. What are your thoughts right now as of tonight?
Well, we're just building on momentum with this room full of people who are here to support candidates like myself who want to make sure that we're actually solving problems and making sure that we're doing work for the people.
Okay, so talk about that, because going across the state, I imagine you're hearing from a lot of individuals about a lot of specific problems they've been having. A lot of the U.S. House candidate side, they've been talking about property taxes. That's a big deal to a lot from a lot of the House candidates. What are you hearing from people?
Well, I ultimately, I've been all over the state. I think I've been traveling. I think I've been to every major city this week. So it's been pretty eventful, and we've stopped in a lot of smaller communities and tried to engage with small business owners and people and just trying to figure out what are the things that people worry about at night. I think one of the things that I will not deny comes up is border security. It happened in Castleton. It happened in Grand Forks. It happened in Fargo. And so it's really important, when we have dialogue with people like that to say, hey, look, we had this bipartisan border bill, and my opponent said, no, we're not going to vote on this right now, even though we have fentanyl coming into our communities, even though we have challenges at the border with the humanitarian crisis and the migration crisis, we're going to wait. And I know that I would have voted for it.
So let's talk about that for a second. I will bring up the House Judiciary meeting that we kind of were discussing previously, but a lot of opponents of the bill will say, hey, that didn't go far enough. Like, what are the measures in here that actually change something?
The group that supports the border security actually backed the bill.
Interesting.
Right? Yeah, no, they were, one of the most, I would say, protective groups of border security, right? They were behind it. They said, we need to get this done. And the reality is that we should have passed it when we had the opportunity, and now we're in election season and nobody wants to do anything, which is a problem with career politicians.
What's your thoughts on the Biden executive order on the border?
Well, I guess he had to do something, and the reality is that that's just another example of Congress abdicating its role of legislating. We don't want judicial legislation. We don't want executive order legislation. We want the people that we've elected to serve to actually legislate.
So some of those people who were elected and started to legislate came to North Dakota recently. The House Judiciary Field meeting that took place. Cass County Sheriff was out there talking about problems with trafficking fentanyl, all that stuff. What are your thoughts on that meeting?
Well, I think, I really wish they would have left the meeting and said, hey, we need to pass this bipartisan border bill, right? We need to get resources to the southern border and our northern border. Sorry. We need to tackle the issues with resources, and executive orders only go so far. Once it gets into the judicial system, it will be litigated. It could be overturned. It's not a solution.
So working with people on the other side of the aisle, like on border security, on border bills, it can be a challenge, but do you think that there's actually meaningful compromises that can be made between Democrats and Republicans on this issue if you were to get in there?
I absolutely. I commit to working in a bipartisan fashion. The most successful bills in the history of our Congress are those bipartisan bills. Mm-hmm. And we should recognize that and go, that we want more of that. That's what works.
Now, the thing is, everyone's going to draw red lines or lines in the sand somewhere. Are there any of them there for you, or is there anything you're willing to compromise on?
I think I would have to see specific texts. I think that's the smart thing.
Understood. That's fair enough.
Yeah.
Katrina Christianson, thank you very much. Busy night tonight.
Yeah.
We'll be talking a lot tonight, so thank you very much for joining us.
I appreciate you having me. Thanks so much.
And Ty, if you still have Katrina there, I'd love to have you ask a question for us at the desk. Is that possible, or did she take off?
Yes. So Steve Hallstrom has a question for you, Katrina. Is that okay?
Yeah. Just tell her thank you for her time, and I'm curious about her strategy going into November with an incumbent senator who has a lot of popularity in the state. What is her strategy for trying to win in November?
Well, we have polling that shows he's not that popular because he's ineffective. He's passed one bill in the last 10 years, and that was renaming a building. I'm going to go out there and meet as many people as possible, and I'm going to show them how hard I will work for them in D.C. And that's, we're going to keep raising money. We're going to outraise Kevin again and again because I work hard. That's what I do.
Well, very good, Katrina. Thank you. I didn't know that you could hear my voice directly, but even better to talk to you directly. Thanks so much for taking the time tonight, and we'll visit with you, I'm sure, as time goes on along the trail. Thanks so much.
That sounds great. Thanks so much.
You got it. Take care. All right. Thank you, Ty, hanging out with Katrina Christianson there. We're going to send it to Tom Tucker, and he is standing by with a Fargo School Board candidate, one of the 9 candidates running for 4 positions on the Fargo School Board. Tom?
Hey, Steve. Allie Ohlenberger joining me now. As you mentioned, candidate for the Fargo School Board. Allie, presumably you're hoping the second time around is going to be the charm here. What are you thinking? What are you feeling here tonight?
Well, I am hopeful that everybody that voted for me last time, and then I found 473 more friends because that's how many votes I was short last time. So I hope that I got it.
You got beat up pretty significantly the first time around. Local media labeled you an extremist for some of your views, standpoints, particularly in response to some of the COVID protocols. I think a lot of observers would say you have a tough skin getting in here a second time around. What has motivated you to give it another shot here?
My why never changed, right? So the support of our wonderful educators, and I've got skin in the game. I've got 2 kids that are early on in their Fargo Public Schools career. I am a graduate of Fargo Public Schools, and so is my dad. So my kids are 3rd generation. It means a lot to me.
You are among, I think, maybe 4 candidates endorsed by the Fargo Teachers Union. How was it that you think you were able to secure that endorsement?
Ultimately, I think me coming back a second time around really, really helped. Being humble and honest in terms of the things that I maybe didn't do right the first time around. And ultimately, the teachers union is sick of the same group think, right? They want somebody who's got a tough skin, who's got to stand up, and that isn't going to back down. We see in so many elections that these folks that, they run in support of our teachers, and then they get on the school board and they just fall in line and don't do anything. And I've got Steve and Jay Thomas both holding me accountable. If I ever fall in line like that they have the opportunity to slap me upside the head and say, come on now, that's not what we elected you for. So
a couple of the decisions over the past year or so that the board has made that have been received with controversy include the decision to not recite the Pledge of Allegiance at one point for some time. Also, the decision by the school superintendent, Rufat Gandhi, not to follow the state law. when it comes to parents who ask a school staff how their children are identifying at school, that staff under the law is required to inform parents of what their kids are doing on campus, but the superintendent saying, no, we're not going to follow that state law. I know you have strong positions on those issues and more.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll take the first one, the pledge. As a veteran to the United States Army National Guard, I mean, sitting there and saying that you don't, believe that you can pledge allegiance to our country is extremely hurtful. I think that whole situation really, number one, it was unnecessary. And number two, it was just disrespectful. The second piece, in terms of Dr. Gandhi's openly defying state law, I think is unacceptable as a leader, right? So you are a leader of our children, of our future, and setting that moral compass of it's the law. I mean, that's it, point blank. It's the law. You follow the law, and if you don't like the law, then you work with the lawmakers to change the law. But you don't openly say, I'm not going to follow a law because I don't like it. It's just unacceptable. So.
Yeah. Any other priorities that you want to tackle if you are successful here tonight?
Spending is a big one, right? So the Fargo Public Schools has been obviously talking about the long-range facilities plan. I think it's really, really important to have a fiscally conservative person looking through those line items and those budgetary components. Number one, making sure that the money that's being spent is going to appropriate things, and to making sure that our schools are focused on safety and security first and foremost in our buildings.
Okay. Allie Olenberger, candidate for Fargo School Board, thanks so much for taking some time tonight, and wish you all the best in the days ahead, and hopefully you get the outcome you desire here tonight.
I'm hopeful, and thank you again for everything, Tom, and the flag. I appreciate it.
All right. Our pleasure. Thanks so much, Allie Olenberger. All right, Steve and Tony, that's it from here at CJ's in South Fargo. Back to you guys in the studio.
Yeah, and Tom, make sure that you let Allie know that her being a veteran and a very feisty young lady, nobody's going to slap her upside the head around here. I promise you that, because we'll have it coming back our direction twice as hard. So we know better.
There you go.
Yeah, thanks so much, Tom.
By all means, yeah. You got it, Steve.
Okay. Some results are starting to funnel in, so let's take a look at some of the early returns that we're seeing here. We are seeing now that there are 43 out of the 385 precincts that are now reporting. So we're about 10% of the vote has now been turned in. And we'll just touch on the races where there's actual competition. Like we know Kevin Kramer's running unopposed. We're not going to spend any time there. For the House of Representatives in the Republican primary, Julie Fedorchuk with 44% of the vote to Rick Becker's 31%, Cara Mund at 18%, Alex Balaz at 5%. In terms of the raw votes, Fedorchuk at about 5,015 votes, Becker at 3,539, Cara Mund right around 2,100, Alex Balaz at 606. There is a race on the Democrat side for the House of Representatives. Trygve Hammer is expected to be a strong entity here, and certainly it looks that way so far. 73% of the vote to 26 for Reimers, about 1,900 votes for Hammer, 680 for Reimers. For the Republican governor's primary, Kelly Armstrong and Michelle Turnberg, 68% to 31% for Tammy Miller. That right now is a little bit more than 2-1 in favor of Armstrong. Again, about 10 to 12% of the precincts reporting there. And we also have for Department of Public Instruction, this is one that hasn't been talked about a whole lot, but this is a very interesting race this is a nonpartisan race here. And this is Basler, Heitkamp, Jim Bartlett, and Darko Draganic. Basler with a big lead early, 56% of the vote. Jason Heitkamp in second with 23. Jim Bartlett in third place with about 17% of the vote. And as far as the age limit vote, the yeses leading big so far in this one, 62% to 37%. About 14,000 total votes in, and again, about 12% of the precincts reporting so far. I'm checking to see if we have anything locally, and we are now starting to get some city results from Fargo, so let's give you the update there. It is John Strand and Arlette Preston with the early lead, 22% for Strand, 19% for Preston, Turnberg in third at 17%, Al Carlson in fourth at 14%, Anna Johnson then at 12%, Delson Santal with 9%, Nate Pullen with 5%. And so that's the Fargo City Commission race, the early going there. The precincts reporting, 1 of 23. So partial results coming. So we're still very early there in the voting. Only about 770 votes in
Steve,
so
does it say
far.
what precinct?
It does not
Okay.
give us that detail.
Okay.
It does not say which ones on this map right here. School board. This one, again, no full precincts, partial results coming in from all 17. Kristen Nelson, number 1 at 17. Allie Olenberger, number 2 at 12. Nikki Gullickson, one of the incumbents, also at 12. Seth Holden at 11. Jason Nelson at 10. Ryan Dodd at 10. Don Morgan at 9. Paul Moore at 8. And John Campbell at 7. So only about 811 votes in there, so very early in that one as well. We have some early results in West Fargo City Commission as well. Rory Jorgensen with an early lead, 33% of the vote. Amy Zundel with 27. Deanne Reed at 15. John Severson with 12. We can also give you an update on West Fargo School Board. This looks to be a very good race early. Tricia Page, Daniel Schaefer, and Patty Stedman in a statistical dead heat. You won't hear this very often. Page with 284 votes, Schaefer with 283, Stedman with 282. So we're very early there with some partial results there. In Horace, there is a city council election. And again, very early, just a handful of votes there. Nothing that statistically can be measured. All right, so with that being said, we'll continue to wait for more of the results to come in. Let's send it back to Tom Tucker. He's standing by with West Fargo Mayor Bernie Dardis.
Hey, Steve, Dardis is standing by here, and he's making his way to me over here in a quiet corner. And it's great to be with you guys tonight. Mayor Dardis, thanks for taking some time here this evening. We appreciate it. You've got 2 seats coming open on the West Fargo City Commission. That could be significant change when it does happen. What are you thinking and feeling about that?
Well, the good thing is that I'd like to congratulate Mandy George and Mark Simmons for their service to our community. We have 5 candidates running for those 2 seats. I've sat down and visited with them and opened up the budget and answered any questions that they might have. They're all committed to get themselves elected. They have some ideas of how some things might be able to change. A number of the ideas and suggestions that they do have will require some work at the North Dakota legislature. North Dakota Century Code doesn't allow us to do a couple of those things, but they're very engaged, and that's a great thing for the citizens of West Fargo.
One of the candidates in particular, Deanne Reed, is talking about taking steps to eliminate the special assessments or to try to get something going to provide some type of relief. What are your thoughts with regard to that goal?
Well, I'd remind everyone that, Commissioner Tony Grinberg and Commissioner Tony Gehrig and myself spent 1.5 years studying special assessments from all over North Dakota, Minnesota, all over the nation, as a matter of fact, and come to the conclusion that, once that you're engaged in that process that we have now, the only way to change that would be some significant legislative changes to the North Dakota Century Code, number one. And number two is that you can't charge citizens different rates. I mean, somebody can't be paying a monthly stipend, in lieu of special assessments versus a 25 or 30-year assessments on those houses. So the point being is that to totally do away with special assessments, the city would have to pay all of their long-term bonds off. And I would venture to say that 90% of any city in the state of North Dakota, if not more, they would go bankrupt if they paid off their long-term bonds right now. Ours is at a little over 290-some million. And so that's going to take some real thought and process to discuss it. But obviously, if Mrs. Reed has a suggestion of how we can do that, we're going to listen and see what happens.
Am I correct to presume, as mayor, that you haven't officially endorsed any of these candidates seeking these 2 open seats?
No, that's not in my purview. I served at the pleasure of the citizens of West Fargo. They graciously elected me as the mayor, and I run the meetings, and I treat the job as if I'm one of the commissioners. I don't think that I have any special privileges, so it wouldn't be right for me to do that. These folks have been working hard. They've been out doing their door-to-door. They've been going to their commission forums. They've answered a lot of surveys from different organizations, and so that's a decision that the citizens of West Fargo should make, and I should not be interfering in that.
Some of the conversations that have come up during this election season when it comes to West Fargo have to do with some of the turnover at City Hall over the past year or two, some high-level departures, some instability when it comes to the city finance director position. Kind of to the outsider who looks at some of these things happening and wonders, what's going on at City Hall. What do you say to those folks?
Well, obviously, the time that we were dealing with that was challenging. The good news is that we've hired some amazing people. We've been able to fill those positions that left us, and they're very competent people. They're getting the job done. You're correct. We continue to do a search both regionally, and probably we'll turn it over to a national firm as well, because we want the best that we can get. We need somebody that has obviously municipal finance experience along with bonding experience, and we're going to continue that search until we find the right individual.
Anything else in closing you want to share tonight?
Well, again, the city commission comes and goes. The people at City Hall, they work hard. Sometimes they bring forth things that the commissioners don't agree with, but nonetheless, that's what the whole part of city government does, and I'm proud to be a part of that.
West Fargo Mayor Bernie Dardis, it's always a pleasure to speak with you. Thanks so much for the time. Appreciate it, Bernie. Thanks so much. All right, so Steve, that's it for me from here. I do have Michelle Turnberg here at this Republican gathering, and I will be looking to have her on air with me the next hit we get out here from South Fargo.
That sounds great, Tom. Thanks very much. Tony, we can call our first race of the night. The Associated Press has reported they have called the race in the governor's primary on the Republican side. Kelly Armstrong has won the Republican nomination for governor. That race was called just a couple minutes ago. The most up-to-date numbers we have on this one, it's still very early, but like most of the recent polls, the numbers just have not been friendly to Tammy Miller and Josh Teigen. Right now, with 53 precincts fully reporting and another about 75 partial reporting, there are 16,700 votes in altogether. Armstrong with 11,000 to Tammy Miller's 5,000. So it's about a 2-to-1 margin right now. The polls opened, the initial numbers showed that, and they really haven't changed. And so Associated Press, feeling like they know enough to make a call, have said that it will be Kelly Armstrong moving out of the Republican primary going into the general election against Merill Piepkorn, who is running unopposed. Any surprises there, Tony?
No. The only surprise is what percent of North Dakota has counted their ballots so far?
Well, 16,000. So if they have 100 and say, what did they have, 110,000 last time, we've got maybe, I don't know, 15% of the vote in.
It just seems early to call it, although he has a massive lead for Kelly Armstrong.
It's a big lead. And
yes.
The AP probably knows where those votes are coming from that aren't in yet. And yes, every poll here, I've been surprised all along. Kelly's a very effective politician.
Yep.
And maybe it's just the fact that Tammy Miller is very well known in the business community, but among rank and file North Dakotans, maybe people just don't know her very well.
It's possible. And like you said, Kelly is a well-liked guy in North Dakota politics in general. Being our only congressman is a big deal. And giving that up to be the governor, I mean, I think that's a pretty natural move for him, and I think people see it that way.
Yeah, we can give you some updates as well on the Republican House primary. We are now at 53 precincts fully reporting there as well. Fedorchak at 44%, Becker at 30%, Mund at 18%, Balazs at 5%. So those numbers in right now, and we're getting an update just now on City of Fargo results as well, so let's give those to you. John Strand and Arlette Preston continue to be the top two vote getters. They have been from the very first reporting set of data that's come out. Strand at 22%, Preston at 18%, Turnberg 16%, Anna Johnson at 14%, Al Carlson at 13%, Santal at 10%, Nate Pullen at 5%. So we've got that update to pass along. Let's take a look and see if School Board has an update. And yes, we do have an update on Fargo School Board as well. Kristen Nelson continues to lead the way at 16%, but then a very close race for about the next 5 or 6 spots. Olenberger at 12, Holden at 12, Gullickson at 11, Dodd at 10, Jason Nelson at 10, and Don Morgan at 10, Paul Moore at 8, and then John Campbell currently in the final spot there at 7. Let's give you some West Fargo updates here as well. Rory Jorgensen continues to lead that race. There are no precincts fully reporting, 8 partial reporting. Jorgensen at 33%, Zundel at 27%. And then there's a bit of a gap there between 2 and 3, and they are voting for 2. So a big lead right now. In terms of just numbers of votes, Amy Zundel in second at 189 votes, Deanne Reed at 104 in third, Tyler Erickson in fourth at 90, John Severson very close there at 12% or 84 votes as well. In the West Fargo School Board race, we continue to see a very even race there. All 3 will move on. There are 3 spots open there, so that race we can close out as being one that there's not much reporting left to be done on there. And Horace, we've got a city council race there as well. Naomi Birkeland right now with 42% of the vote, Rachel Dwyer at 28, and Jordan Krause in third at 14. There's also one write-in candidate there as well. So still only about a dozen votes that are in there in that race as well. So very early in that one. Let's also take a look, and momentarily we'll send it to Ty Schonert, and he's out in town as well. But let's give you a couple of things that you might want to know about in Cass County Commission District 5. This is the only one that has a contested race. Joel Vettel right now with a big early lead at 60% of the vote. Keith Godis in second at 22%. Marty Johnson in third at 18%. That's one person to be elected out of 3 people that are running for that spot. And it looks as though the people of Fargo definitely want the publications for the city to be published in the forum, 85% with a yes vote there. In West Fargo, the same question being asked at 85%. I thought there might be more people that say, these days, do we really need to put all those notices in a paper and pay for it? Because they're not free.
I voted against it. I mean, you can go online and get all this stuff just like that. Yeah.
But that's not how the votes are going.
No, not at all.
So far. All right. So with that, let's send it back out to Ty Schonert, and he's hanging out with some of the folks at Kingpins tonight, where some of the folks from the Democrat Party are getting together this evening. Ty?
Brian, thank you for joining me here on this election night. We're at the Kingpins right now, the Dem convention. What's going on in your mind right now?
Well, I'm just kind of hopeful that we get a similar turnout that I did the last primary that I was in. I'm not overly nervous about it because I'm not being challenged on the Democratic ticket. So I'm just wanting to make sure that I get enough votes to make it to the general election so I can hit the ground running with some momentum behind me. So I can challenge, keep my seat and keep doing what I did in the last legislative session.
Talk about some of the issues that your district is facing right now. Some of the things that when you're knocking on doors and listening to people talk about things, what are some of those challenges that people bring up to you consistently?
Some of the biggest challenges that we're seeing right now is rising rents. I live in a district that is highly renter-based, where about 70% of our residents are not owner-occupied. So that's one of the biggest things. We're also seeing a lot of issues with landlords charging for other services rather than just on top of rent, like garbage and water and sewer, that I'd want to make sure that we investigate in the next legislation session so we can make sure that we keep housing affordable.
Are you hearing about property taxes or anything along those lines? I know at least a lot of homeowners we hear from, that's one of the big things they're talking about.
We do a little bit, but like I said, I have a very small property tax base, very small property owner base. So it's not at the top of mind for most of my individuals that are in my area, just because it's mostly renter-based in there. So it is something that we definitely want to look at. Obviously, property taxes is hyper-local, and it's not something we can really take a lot of control over at the legislative level. Like last session, we just provided rebates. We could possibly do that again, but we can't really lower property taxes ad hoc.
Talking about the renters then, because you said they face some challenges, and since they're mainly what compose a lot of your base, talk about what that's like.
Well, I think it's like, and I'm a renter myself, so I rent it as well. And I think it's very hard because it's very hard to pinpoint those people because it is a very mobile group too. So they often will chase deals. They will make sure they do that. So it's really hard to keep on task on who's going to be there when it's time to vote. So I think it's very important that we keep helping them. It's also making sure that I would love to see if we can convert those renters into homeowners so that they stay more permanent as well.
All right. Thank you very much for joining us. We need to head back now into the newsroom where Steve Hallstrom and Tony Gehrig are joining us. Thank you very much. I'll see you guys in a moment.
Thank you very much, Ty. Yes, and we can update you. There are some new numbers in, and they are changing. And I'm going to start in the Fargo School Board race because that's where the picture has changed the most significantly. We now have about 8,300 votes in, and as Tim Mahoney was talking about, the hope is that maybe 15,000, 16,000 votes will come in there altogether tonight. Kristen Nelson has led the way from the very beginning, but that lead has tightened. Allie Ohlenberger in second is challenging her and moving up the board a little bit, narrowing that gap. So Nelson at 15.1%, Ohlenberger at 13.9%, and then Jason Nelson has made a big move recently up to 12.8%. Nikki Gullickson, one of the incumbents, is now fourth at 11.8%. Paul Moore has made a big move in the last batch of reporting up to 10.4%. And so he is knocking on that door. Again, we're voting for 4 in that race. Ryan Dodd has dropped a little bit. He's now at 10.0%. Seth Holden has dropped probably the most places since we checked this last. He's now at 9.6%, and he sits in 7th place. John Campbell in 8th at 8.0%. Don Morgan in 9th at 7.7%. So a dump of ballots there recently. Let's go back to the top. We're watching also with great interest tonight that House primary on the Republican side with Julie Fedorchak and Rick Becker. Fedorchak has widened her lead with now 72 out of the 385 precincts reporting now. So we're about 20%, a little more than that, of precincts in. Fedorchak at 45.1%. Becker at 30.0% exactly. Munn still in third. Her percentage number has not really moved at all at 18.8. Alex Balas has dropped a little bit statistically at 4.8%. Charlotte Moore will not be a factor in this race tonight. So we've got a pretty good 1-2 race there, a clear number 1, a clear number 2, and then a clear number 3 right now in that race. And I want to take a look to see if we have West Fargo updates as well, because we saw the numbers change. Yes, we do. We've got another update for the West Fargo City Commission race. Rory Jorgensen, who has led from the start, continues to be in the number 1 spot, 31.8% of the vote. Amy Zundel, a very strong showing for this political newcomer, 26.6%. Deanne Reed is in third at 15.7%. Tyler Erickson and John Severson at 12.9 and 12.4. Very close race between the two of them there. So those are some of the big races that we've been watching here this evening, and we'll continue to update those as we go along the way here tonight. But we want to send it over now to John Strand, who's joining us, and he is an incumbent Fargo City Commission and running for re-election. And so far, things have gone fairly well for Mr. Strand as he hopes to gain re-election here tonight. John, thank you for taking some time. We know you're hanging out with your family tonight, so thank you for making a few minutes. So far, so good. You're the number 1 vote getter here with about 2,100 of the votes in across the city of Fargo, so it's still fairly early, but has to be encouraging anytime you see yourself on the top of the leaderboard.
Well, if you saw me now, what you would see is a nonstop pacing, where I've just walked from one side to the other. I can't quite catch the numbers, so you're probably seeing what I'm not able to see, but I'm sure we're all looking forward to the numbers coming in and knowing where we all stand.
Well, you've got a 70-vote lead on your fellow incumbent, Arlette Preston, and then Michelle Turnberg in third, and she is about 120 votes in the rearview mirror for you right now. So, John, I'm joined by Tony Gehrig, and he and I are anchoring our coverage here tonight. I want to ask you a little bit about the campaign. You're obviously a very well-known person in the city. You've been on the city commission now for several years. Yet I got the sense when you were here for the debate that you did with us, I got the sense you haven't lost your passion, your excitement for the job, and people do respond to that. So it seems as though you haven't lost your fire for serving the city.
Well, having a heart is a really important thing in my world, and letting your heart lead is just a good direction to be aiming whenever you're so able to. And it's if you have issues that you care about and people you care about, that's a pretty natural combination to have that sense of passion for everybody and for people who really, especially for those who struggle.
John, Tony here. This will be your third term as a Fargo City Commissioner. So you've been there for many years now. Have your priorities changed at all for this last term for you, since this will be your last term as a city commissioner?
Tony, I just couldn't hear your question. Sorry. What was it?
Have your priorities changed from year one to now you'll be going into year 8, 9 here with your third term? Have your priorities changed?
I think they evolve with information. We have a constant growing learning curve, and information is a constant influence to what our thinking is and to how we go forward. So yeah, I try to be open, Tony, to the trends and the mindsets and the thoughts and the desires that people are aiming you toward, because we serve them. And I'm glad to hear from you tonight, because I remember when you won your election and you and I were on the phone and you go, "This is big, B-I-G, this is big." Yeah, I'll never forget that moment, Tony.
Well, John, good luck, and I'm glad to see you on the top, but I want to remind you that I only beat you for the first time by 161 votes, so it's very close still.
That's all right. I was in good company.
All right, good luck, John.
John, before we let you go, I wanted to ask you, going into what could be a third, if things work out well tonight, is there something on your list of things to do, priorities or objectives, or I really want to see this happen before I might go do something else? Is there something left for you where you say, I'm really going to try to sink my teeth into this one issue or this one idea before I have to give my seat to somebody else at some point?
I think my desire is to go to the people who are really wrestling with behavioral health, social health, mental health issues that lead to addiction and some of those barriers in life to flourishing and blossoming as best we can. And it's just everywhere you look, we have people who have family members and friends and neighbors that are affected by those issues. I think that's just huge in our community. We have, of course, we have all the typical list of things. We have to rein in taxes, especially for seniors on fixed incomes. We have to address the growth of the city and not burden people more with specials. That tends to happen too easily. We back to City Hall. We have a mayor who will be retiring in 2 years. This will be my final term. I think it's time to lay the groundwork for our next phases and our next chapters, and what type of legacy will we leave as far as the mindset and the tone and the morale at City Hall. My belief is we need to empower our people more and more and more, and give them the confidence to do what they're hired to do, and not think that we know more than them, which sometimes electeds can do. But it's just a whole plate. And bottom line, on a daily basis, people call me about potholes and streetlights and neighbor issues and dogs barking, and those are the real things you hear from on a regular, ongoing basis from people. But back up in the balcony, it takes all of us.
Well, John, you and I have had many conversations about politics. We don't see every issue the same way, but you and I see that one very much the same way. We're going to pay for mental health one way or another, and we need to get serious about getting people the help they need, because that problem is not going away. It's not getting smaller. It is only going to grow. And so we need to have some thoughtful conversations about how we tackle that issue with mental health in our community. So that will be certainly something we'll all be cheering you on as you work in those efforts in the days ahead should the reelection campaign be fruitful tonight. So we'll let you go, get back to your family and the conversations that you're having there, and we will talk to you again very soon.
I appreciate the call, you guys.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
John Strand, Fargo City Commissioner, running for re-election, and so far, so good. Let's update the board now, and we have had now a big number of votes that have been added on the City of Fargo City Commissioner race, and Michelle Turnberg has now moved in front in that race.
Really?
She had 2,089 votes. She leads John Strand now by looks like 22 votes, so a very close race there. Al Carlson now has moved into third.
Wow.
Arlette Preston in fourth. So Turnberg at 20.5%, Strand 20.3%, Carlson 17.9%, Arlette Preston 16.9%, Anna Johnson 11.6%. So we're starting to see a little bit of a gap there in that top four, and a clear top two right now in Turnberg and Strand. So very interesting numbers there. Let's reset the race for the U.S. House primary on the Republican side. If you're just joining us, the race for the governor's primary on the Republican side was called about a half hour ago, very early, but Kelly Armstrong out with a massive lead on Tammy Miller in that race. And so that one has been called by the Associated Press right now with about 22,000 votes. So maybe about 20% of the total vote in. Armstrong at 68%, Miller at 31%. And the Associated Press, feeling like the numbers just are not going to change enough there, called that race very early. Now for the House race, Julie Fedorchuk has maintained about a 15 percentage point lead on Rick Becker. Kara Mund in third, about 10 points behind Becker. So Fedorchuk 45.2%, Becker 29.4%, Mund 19.2%, Balas at 4.8%. That's how that race goes right there. We gave you the Fargo City Commission update. Let's give you the Fargo School Board update, because I'm guessing we may have some action there. Not quite as much. Kristen Nelson still in the lead at 15.4%, with about 11,000 votes in altogether. So we're now getting to the point in Fargo where we may have more than half of the ultimate vote count there. Olenberger in second at 13.5%, Jason Nelson in third at 12.6%, Nikki Gullickson, one of the two incumbents, at 11.8%. Paul Moore has moved up quite a bit as well. He, one of the four candidates to be endorsed by the Education Association, the teachers union, at 10.4%. And then Seth Holden, the other incumbent, is right now in sixth place at 10.0%. So the four candidates that were endorsed, Nelson, who's currently first, Olenberger, who's currently second, Jason Nelson, who's currently third, and Paul Moore, who's currently fifth, is what we have in those races right now. Let's give you an update on West Fargo City Commission. Rory Jorgensen and Amy Zundel continue to lead by a decent margin. 31% for Jorgensen, 26% for Zundel, 15% for Reed, Erickson 13%, and Severson at 12%. And let's see, for the District 5 Cass County Commission, another race that we are watching. That one is Joel Vettel is out to a big lead there, 57%, to Keith Godis at 24%. In second, and Marty Johnson in third at 17.8%. That is only one person will advance through that race there. I also want to take a quick look at the measure, the age limits measure, and right now it looks like that is going to pass by a wide margin. It's 61 to 38% right now in favor of yes. So North Dakota voters do want to have some kind of an age limit for their congressional candidates. So we can update you that as well. Department of Public Instruction across the state of North Dakota, also a race that we're following tonight. This is a nonpartisan race, but most of these candidates have been leaning on the conservative side on the issues. Kirsten Basler, the incumbent, is at 55% right now. Jason Heitkamp at 23%, and Jim Bartlett at 18%. So that is the results of that right there. Want to give you an update as well. We can pass along a note from our news team here. Lieutenant Governor Tammy Miller has issued a statement congratulating Kelly Armstrong in his victory in today's Republican governor's primary. Quote, "I want to congratulate Congressman Armstrong on his hard-fought campaign and victory. Throughout this campaign, I loved traveling our state, meeting with voters, and listening to their suggestions and concerns. We are incredibly grateful to the thousands of supporters and grassroots conservatives who put their faith in us. I intend to run through the tape as Lieutenant Governor, continuing to do everything I can to help this great state thrive. Serving our state has been the honor of a lifetime, and I continue to believe that North Dakota's best days are ahead of us. I'm endorsing Congressman Armstrong and encourage my supporters to get behind his campaign this fall. Tammy Miller, end quote. Tammy Miller is North Dakota's current lieutenant governor and a successful business leader. Her campaign for governor was her first run for office. That's right. She was appointed as lieutenant governor. Right. So this whole thing is a bit new to her. Classy statement. This was a hard fought and sometimes a brutal campaign, but endorsing Kelly and to encourage her supporters to get behind him going into the campaign this fall, as he'll be running against Merill Piepkorn in the governor's in the governor's general election.
I don't think we've seen the last of Tammy Miller.
I don't think, and I'm glad. I think Tammy Miller has a lot to offer. Bright, accomplished, gets things done. Certainly a great asset for Republicans. Before we go to a couple of our guests that we have standing by, Tony, I just want to ask for your thoughts, any observations that you want to put in here about what we're seeing with some of the voting numbers as they're coming in.
Locally, it just seems bipolar. I mean, you got Michelle Turnberg, who said she's a vote type, a Trump type Republican, right? Then you have John Strand, who's in second place by only 20 votes, and they're both at the top. I mean, you just can't pinpoint what the voters are asking here for. And the same really with West Fargo for their city commission. Jorgensen is more of a conservative, and I think Amy would agree she's more of a centrist, if not leans left a little bit. So I'm a little surprised at the difference in the two people that are ahead for both of these big races.
All right. We're going to go to the phone lines now. We've got Amy Zundel with us, West Fargo City Commission candidate, and we want to get her into the conversation. We've not yet had a chance to hear from her this evening. Amy, thank you for making a few minutes for us. So far, some good things coming there. There are two people that will advance to the City Commission. Currently, you're in second place. How do you feel so far?
It's interesting how I get a little more nervous the more votes that come in, despite the percentages staying relatively the same. So it's been an interesting experience as far as the first night watching votes come in with your name on the ballot. That's for sure.
So as you have traveled around talking to the voters, what do you think resonated, your story with them? What do you think is helping you right now getting some of these numbers?
From the get-go, I've just been very committed to being my authentic self. And I'm someone who likes to work. I like to work hard. I really like to hear all sides of the story. I would definitely agree with Tony. I'm a centrist. I don't know that I'm left-leaning. I would correct him there. But I've enjoyed hearing everyone's perspectives. I'm someone who likes to be organized. I like to have follow-up. I like to have a plan. So I guess I would say maybe that. I think the voters in West Fargo are looking for someone who wants to show up to meetings, ready to work. They've read their agenda packet. They've got ideas, and they've got some plans for where they'd like to see the city to go.
Yeah, what is the number one thing you think the city needs to address? What's the biggest issue that you think you would be working on if you are elected tonight?
My main goal over the scope of it, because nothing happens quickly in government at all, is I just would really like to see kind of a vision moving forward for the next 10 years, especially as we plan to open up all of that square footage in the lagoons. I would like to move into that with a really well thought out plan and finding some essentially performance indicators to follow up with, to touch base with kind of frequently, so we can kind of gauge the health of our city and where we're going and if we're doing a good job and how we're doing those things. So my long range plan is that over the next 4 years, really.
Okay. Well, Amy, we will keep you on speed dial here. The latest update just came in, and right now about 1,100 votes in. Yourself and Rory Jorgensen in basically a dead heat right now at 28% of the vote, and then Deanne Reed in third at 15%. So at this point, there is a lead there. We'll see how that shakes out as the night goes on. But thank you for taking a few minutes here with us tonight, Amy.
Sounds great. Thanks so much.
All right, thanks so much. Amy Zundel, West Fargo City Commission candidate. Tom Tucker is standing by with Michelle Turnberg, and that is one of the big developing stories here this evening. The latest numbers show that Michelle Turnberg is widening her lead. Mm-hmm. She has 3,203 votes. That's 20.9%, and she leads all Fargo City Commission candidates. John Strand in second. A very tight race there, and Al Carlson not far behind in third. Arlette Presson, one of the two incumbents, is sitting fourth right now at 16.3%. About 15,000 votes in now throughout the city of Fargo. So we still have a number of votes left to count, but Michelle Turnberg in the lead right now, Tom Tucker.
Yeah, that's right. And Michelle Turnberg does have a smile on her face because of this. Michelle, what are you thinking? What are you feeling? What's going through your head, your heart right now?
Well, it's certainly exciting. The night is very young, but we're encouraged, and it's exciting to see that we're in the lead. Just hearing a lot of good things, a lot of positive feedback from people. So I'm encouraged, and hopefully this is a good night.
Yeah, maybe that name recognition is paying off a little bit for you from one former TV news anchor to another here. Certainly a lot of people remember you from your days in television here in the FM Metro, I'm sure. What caused you to take the plunge here into local politics after sitting on the sideline for as long as you did?
Yeah, well, I covered a lot of city and government issues back when I was in the news. And I had a group of concerned citizens reach out to me and ask me if it was something that I would be interested in. And it wasn't something that was really on my radar. But after some thoughtful consideration, I thought, why not jump in? And instead of sitting on the sidelines and maybe complaining or being one of those people that isn't doing anything about it, to do something about it and be part of the process. So that's how it all started, and here we are.
I think you've talked about in the past maybe your platform including the issues of transparency and accountability and maybe some fiscal responsibility as well. Talk about some of those things.
Yeah, well, we want to add that conservative voice to the commission. We want to be very diligent with budgets and spending and make sure that we're spending wisely to support law enforcement. There's just so many local issues to deal with that, I'm just very excited to have the possibility that maybe this is something we'll be doing.
Yeah. What's your top priority? What do you want to get to work on most if in fact you are victorious here tonight?
Bringing common sense to the commission, I think, is very important, but also to really work with law enforcement. I think there's a need for that, as last night's commission showed with the street racing issue. It's something that we need to work with law enforcement. I don't know that last night's answer is the answer to reduce the speed limit in that area, but we'll definitely be diving into these issues. And like I said, work with law enforcement, work with the chief, work with the boots on the ground, and see how we can help them and make sure they have the resources that they need.
Mm-hmm. We had an interesting moment when we hosted you and the other candidates at a candidates debate on WDAY and AM 1100, the flag as well. And as moderator, I got to ask the question, who would be your political idol or the person you look up to or whose style you'd like to emulate or who you think does things right from a political standpoint. And if I recall correctly, you were the only person who answered Donald Trump. And I think some in the room might have been a little bit surprised or taken aback, by that. But looking back on that moment, what do you think and what do you feel about that now?
I stand behind it wholeheartedly. I think it's important to be transparent, and I want to start that way from the very beginning. I'm a big fan of President Trump. I can't wait to vote for him even harder this time around. So, no, I stand by that. I've gotten some backlash, but a lot of support from that. And, he's a wonderful leader, and I will continue to support him.
Yeah, well, apparently some voters like that as well and like your position on a number of other issues as well. Again, we're speaking with Michelle Turnberg, the front runner here tonight in the race for Fargo City Commission. Michelle, thanks so much for the time tonight, and we look forward to touching base with you as the evening rolls on.
Thank you, Tom. I really appreciate it.
All right, Steve, that's it from us here in South Fargo at CJ's at Rose Creek. Back to you guys in studio.
Thank you very much. One of the developing stories tonight is that North Dakotans are starting to make their voice heard, that they want congressional age limits for their candidates. Right now, with about 50,000 votes in across the state. Yes, for having that age limit is leading 61% to 39%. So almost a 60-40 split there. Our Jay Thomas from the Jay Thomas Show on WDAY is here with us as well. Jay, this is an interesting story that the people of North Dakota are making their voice heard about tonight.
Yeah, you know what, though, Steve? I'm not going to say I'm surprised about this. I think, we see our president and what is happening. My dogs are going off in the background.
Yeah, I can tell. Either that or Alex is not feeling well, one of the two.
Yeah, exactly. We see what's going on with the president, and I don't want to make light of that. And I think that played a big factor into this. I know when I went today and voted, I voted no because I'm a person who believes, you can be 80 years old and your faculties can be better than a 50-year-old. And I don't like the fact that you're taking that vote away from me. Let me as a voter decide that. That should be my decision. That should be your decision, not the state's decision. Like I said, I'm not surprised by it because age has been a big thing for last couple of years. I think we're going to come back and regret this, Steve. I really do.
Yeah, I see that the same way. I feel like I'm one who kind of likes to have a very light touch of government in my life, and I want to be able to make those decisions on my own. But, Tony, you can't help but see Mitch McConnell looking like he's just basically baking out on stage. And you see, as Jay said, Joe Biden, Dianne Feinstein, there are people that are just there way too long. And I think the easy gut reaction for people is, we got to have people that can function well. But when you think through it a little bit more, you say, well, why can't we just have it done by elections and people having that say? So I understand why people are saying yes to this.
I do too. So term limits has become a very popular thing for all the reasons you said. The age of the people who are there, how long they've been there. The problem with having someone that old who's been there for that long is you have a lot of incentive to keep that person in there because the longer you're in Congress, the more power you have, the better committees you have. The more attention you get, So I completely understand why people want things like term limits, even at the local level, even here in Fargo. I also understand why they want age limits as well.
I think term limits and age limits are different in my mind. Okay. If you want to say term limits of, hey, be there 3 terms, like Fargo City Commission, we were just talking about that. That's because let's get some fresh blood in there. When you say there's a number at which you are no longer functional, Jay, that's where I kind of have some trouble with it.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. I mean, term limits, I'm on board with that. Okay, you get to go this many times. Age thing, I have a real problem with. Again, I know people, Steve, I know you do, Tony, you do, 70s, 80s, they are smarter than people in their 40s and 50s. So to do this, and it's almost age discrimination, which we don't,
but you have
should not do in this country.
You have minimums, Jay.
But, yeah, I know that, and that's a whole other topic. But the term limits is different than age limits. I voted no on this for the same reason you did, Steve. It's like, no, let me decide that. I look at the candidate. I can see where the candidate's at. I could, go, nah, he's not there. Yeah. He's done. I'm not surprised the numbers are at where they're at right now.
Yeah.
Well, and I think we're going to regret this. I really do.
Yeah, we'll see. It's certainly something that's going to be a really good conversation going forward. All right, we've had another big adjustment in some of the races here. So, Jay, thanks, my friend. We'll check in with you in a little bit.
Whoa. I got to hear this adjustment because I'm not in front of my TV. I'm out in my front yard getting away from the dogs. What do we got?
Do you not have a radio or a mobile app, my friend? I can help hook you up on that.
No, I got the TV on in the garage, but I'm sitting in the front yard so you don't hear my dogs
All right,
barking.
Gotcha. All right, so here's the story. A new batch of votes, and we now have about 101 precincts fully reporting across the state. Now about 45,000 votes have been registered. The race that we are watching statewide is the House primary on the Republican side. Julie Fedorchak has extended her lead now. She's at 46% of the vote to Rick Becker's 28%. And when you start looking, guys, at the sheer number of votes where you see a difference here, it's getting late early for Rick Becker. Yeah. Julie Fedorchak now with 20,475 votes, Becker at 12,802. So she's now got almost an 8,000 vote lead, 7,500 on Becker. That's a big number to make up here.
Yeah, you could probably call that one.
I think that's going to be getting very close.
You can call this race.
Cara Mund is in third right now at 19.4, so she's another 4,200 votes behind Becker, but it really looks like Fedorchuk is in the driver's seat, no question about it. Do you guys feel that what happened today in some way might have helped her?
I don't.
I don't either. I don't either. If it would have been earlier, days earlier, it would have. I think it might have made a little bit of difference, but it was too late in it. And I will say this: I said this on my show today, guys. If they can find who did this person or persons should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law.
I completely agree.
Here and mess. You don't mess with our elections. This is our right. We earned this. The veterans of this country that went out and fought for this country, they did that. One of the reasons they did that was so we had this right. And for somebody to go in there and mess with it like this, that is so wrong. It is so wrong on so many levels. And I hope if they find the person, I hope there is no plea bargaining. I hope North Dakota sends a message that you will not come to North Dakota and do this to our elections.
Yeah, absolutely. Looks like the Associated Press knew what they were doing when they called the Armstrong-Miller race early because that has only grown in margin now. It's 69, basically 70-30 right now with Armstrong with 69.79% of the votes and Tammy Miller at basically right at 30% right there. So that race, votes continue to trickle in there, but the margin really has not changed at all. Let's update the Fargo City Commission race, another one that we've been...
this one is fun.
Michelle Turnberg is widening her lead at 21.6%. John Strand in second, one of the two incumbents at 19.2%. So you've got you're voting for two here, and so those two are 1 and 2. But Al Carlson has gained on Strand in second place, and now that one's very close. So Strand is at 19.2%, Carlson at 18.1%. He's only about 200 votes behind. Arlette Preston is in fourth, one of the two incumbents. She's at 16%. She now is about 625 votes behind John Strand for the second and key spot in that race. Anna Johnson at 11%, Delson Santal at 7%, and Nate Pullen at 6%. So Turnberg and Strand 1 and 2 right now, but this is still a very good race. The top three are only separated by about 700 votes.
Here's the big thing. Go ahead.
Wait, hold on. How much of the vote is in right now, guys?
Sorry, I've got a producer in my ear. Say that again, Jay.
How much of the vote is in right now?
About 19,600 votes are in right now.
Okay.
And so
it seems like most of it.
It seems like a good share of it. They are saying that no precincts have fully reported yet, but that's a pretty good number. I think, wasn't Tim Mahoney saying hopefully we get to 15,000 or something?
Remember,
like
these
that?
are votes, so these aren't people, right? So there's less than 15,000 voters at this point.
That's right. You've got to remember that in the Fargo race because it is approval voting. So
the last thing I want to think about
for
that race is,
that's right.
Depending on where they're getting these numbers from, which precinct, John Strand is very strong downtown. So if they've already counted downtown, he's in trouble. If they have not counted downtown yet, he's probably going to win.
What is surprising you guys? Let's take the age thing out of the equation. What tonight is surprising you two?
Well, I said it before. I think that the duality of the people who are in the lead, right? So I don't think that Rory and Amy are at all similar. I mean, I think they're very different. I don't think that John Strand and Michelle Turnberg are very similar, and they're both at the top of the leaderboard right now. So
candidates matter.
To me, that's surprising because usually you'll see something like John and Arlette win because they're very similar because they got more of their core out. You know what I mean?
All right, I got to get this in. You're listening to WDAY, Fargo Moorhead, USA, Dilworth, WZFG, Dilworth, Fargo Moorhead, USA. Here as we are at 9:12. Sorry, guys, I'm a little bit late on getting that in. I do want to, Jay, I appreciate the conversation, but I want to update some races here because there's numbers coming in every couple of minutes on school board and then the West Fargo races, which we want to watch carefully too. The Fargo School Board race is proving to be very, very interesting. You have not had a change in your top four, but the tightening of this race is really something. So right now it's Kristen Nelson, Allie Olenberger, Jason Nelson, and Nikki Gullickson 1 through 4. But they are only separated by about 700 votes. Paul Moore is right outside the top four. He's in 5th right now, but he's only about 108 votes behind Nikki Gullickson for that 4th spot. And if you remember right, Moore was one of the candidates that was endorsed by the Fargo Education Association. Ryan Dodd is in 6th at 10%, then Seth Holden at 9%. This right now, guys, is one of the biggest storylines of the night. Mm-hmm. Incumbent Fargo School Board member Seth Holden running 7th out of 9, and he's in danger of losing touch with the lead pack, if you will. He's about 500 votes behind at this point with about 20,000 votes in altogether. And again, here you're voting for 4, so you can't go by, that's not unique voters. So that is an interesting development. Kristen Nelson has led this one from the very beginning. She continues to. Let's update the West Fargo races as well. Rory Jorgensen and Amy Zundel continue to run in a basic dead heat. Jorgensen at 329 votes, Zundel at 328. So that's about as close as that gets. And they have a lead now of about 140 votes over Deanne Reed in 3rd. Tyler Erickson is in 4th. John Severson is in 5th. So you've got 2 that are going to be added to that city commission. And right now, Jorgensen and Zundel are in a strong position. There are about 1,152 votes that are in this race right now. So that's the latest on West Fargo City as well. Let's update you on the Horace city elections as well, because we've got 2 candidates being named out of a race of 3 in Horace for city council. And this has been a very tight race throughout and still continues to be that way. Naomi Birkeland is the leader at 31.7%. Rachel Dwyer just a couple votes behind at 31.0%. Jordan Krause in 3rd at 24%. As far as sheer vote numbers, it's about 90 votes different between Dwyer and Krause for that elusive and all-important second spot.
That 100 vote between the 1st and the 3rd might be too much to overcome. Remember, it's a very small town, and they've already had over 1,300 voters. That might be the number of voters.
That might be what they get. Yeah. Joel Vettel in Cass County District 5 looks like he's had a big lead since the very beginning. It looks like he's going to claim that spot. He's got a 57% lead right now to Keith Godis in 2nd at 24%. So
they'll run off.
Pretty significant there.
They'll run off.
In November. So they will advance to the general election where we will have that. And I think we can put this one to bed as far as publication of minutes. 85-15 in both Fargo and West Fargo to continue to publish the official city business in the forum. There was some conversation that maybe newspapers have not necessarily carried the same punch they've always had, but they certainly seem to have it at least tonight in this vote right there. All right, Jay, we're going to take a break, so we're going to let you go, brother, but we'll catch up with you later in the evening. And it's 9:16. We need to take a short break here, or we're getting in trouble from the boys behind the glass. You're listening to Primary Night Coverage. Steve Hallstrom, Tony Gehrig here with you on AM 1100 The Flag, WZFG, and WDAY Radio, AM 970 and FM 93.1. We'll be right back.
Adam with Cheyenne Gardens is here, and we're talking about pollinators and the good flowers and things to have in your garden. Adam, do you have some favorites that you like the bees and butterflies to be able to access?
Some of my favorite annuals or perennials for my butterflies and bees are, I really like the milkweeds. The caterpillars will really like feeding on my milkweeds and my parsley. They like feeding on parsley too, and so I'll use milkweed, asclepias. The other one I like to use for flowers is I use a lot of cosmos and zinnias, alliums, the ornamental onions, the sedums and asters. All those are really good to have in. Sedums and asters are good for the fall when the monarchs are coming back through and getting ready to take off and fly, move their way south.
All right, and Adam, if somebody wanted to have some filler plants, some filler flowers, little holes they've got in the garden, what would you recommend?
Well, if you want to go perennials, I use lots of alliums and catmints and daylilies and sedums and asters. All of them are really good filler perennials. The other one I like to use, if I'm using annuals, I'll use zinnias and cosmos and all those things to fill in my garden and make some holes filled up.
Thank you, Adam. Cheyenne Gardens is a great place to wander, admire, and explore for the largest variety of trees, shrubs, and bedding plants in the area. Just 10 minutes from Fargo up I-29 in Harwood. Put Cheyenne Gardens on top of your list as the best place to visit for your gardening, landscaping, and other needs this year.
At Bethany Retirement Living, we don't just offer jobs, we present pathways to fulfilling careers. We're seeking compassionate RNs, LPNs, CNAs, and cooks to join Team Bethany. Enjoy the flexibility of hours that complement your life, competitive pay that reflects your worth, and an amazing team spirit that makes every workday both fun and rewarding. Leave each day with a sense of accomplishment and the knowledge that you've truly made an impact. Apply today at BethanyND.org. Life is brighter at Bethany.
Want a race for $1,000? You can with the NASCAR Powerball Playoff and the North Dakota Lottery. Now through July 9th, use your Players Club points to enter at lottery.nd.gov or on the mobile app. Not a Players Club member? Sign up. 10 will win $1,000 and could go on for more, including a VIP trip to the NASCAR Cup Series Championship weekend at Phoenix Raceway and $1 million. Rev up your luck with the North Dakota Lottery. 20 years of possibilities. Election 2024 on WDAY Radio and the Flag.
All right, we can call another race. The race for Department of Public Instruction chair has been called by the Associated Press for Kirsten Basler. It was thought that maybe there were some folks that were interested in a new voice leading public instruction in the state of North Dakota, but not so. 54.9%, Jason Heitkamp in second at 22. Jim Bartlett, the candidate that was endorsed by the North Dakota Republican Party in that race, came in a distant third at 19.4%. Basler has issued a statement about the results. She says, first and foremost, I want to thank my family, friends, and supporters who gave their time, donated to my campaign, put signs in the yard, and wrote letters of support. Without you, our success today would not have been possible. She made some comments to local media a short time ago, and here's what she had to say to her supporters.
First and foremost, I want to thank my family, friends, and supporters who gave their time, donated to my campaign, put signs in their yards, and wrote letters of support. Without you, our success today would not have been possible. I'm committed to working hard with you all again as we secure another victory in November. Our students, families, and teachers deserve nothing less.
And those words from Kirsten Basler, who will be going back for, I believe, a fourth term now as the head of Department of Public Instruction. So, Tony, I guess whenever you have an incumbent that has a history, and I don't know that there's any big scandals in her office or any monstrous issues that have happened with public instruction, although I think a lot of people are hoping for better performance in some of the testing. But I guess when you've got those experienced incumbents, they are very difficult to remove.
That I next to your name is very important. And it's not only because people know who you are, it's because you do have a track record. So when you change horses midstream, that is to hire somebody new for a position, you're kind of rolling the dice a little bit because they could be totally different than what you think they are. So
absolutely.
Having that I next to your name, that incumbent I, is massively important.
Absolutely. Well, one of the gentlemen who had a fairly easy path to victory tonight is joining us now here on the news line. Merill Piepkorn, who won the Democratic primary for governor tonight, did not have a challenger, and so it was a fairly relaxed night for Merill. Things are about to get fairly real because he'll be taking on a Republican candidate in the general election who cruised to a fairly easy win tonight in the Republican primary. Merill, thank you very much for taking a few minutes here with us tonight. What have the emotions been for you as you've kind of been able to sit back and watch without a whole lot of nervousness tonight?
Oh, sure. Easy for you to say, Steve. Merill gets a night off because he had no opposition and he just chilled out and everything's going smoothly. I'm telling you what, it's an election is an election, but no, you're right. In a way, early on, young fellow up over the Pembina area, northeastern part of the state, Travis Hipsher, was the first Dem NPLer to announce his bid for the the Dem NPL candidate for governor, and after I announced, he dropped out, and we know each other a little bit, and he likes me and respects me, but and then he dropped out. I kind of wish he would have stayed in. We would have had a little more attention paid to us, I think, here during this primary season. But he is nonetheless supporting me in my bid too. But yeah, it's been exciting, and it's fun to see some results coming up on the screen with our name on there, and we're looking forward to the general election campaign.
Yeah, I was going to have some fun with you and say then you would have just had to spend more time making speeches and spending more advertising money. So nobody needs that, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think I heard on one of the stations that Tammy Miller spent $3.7 million on his primary campaign. Does that sound right?
I've not heard that number, but there was a lot of money spent in that campaign. No question about that.
Let's put it like this. Okay, go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, no, I sorry about that. I thought you were done. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just going to ask you, though, about going forward now. Obviously going to be a difficult task against Kelly Armstrong, someone who's got a lot of name recognition, a lot of support within the Republican Party, as we saw tonight. Tammy Miller is already trying to coalesce the party and asking her supporters to get behind him. So what is your strategy going forward? What is the pathway for you to come out with a win, do you think, in November?
Well, I got a couple of neighbors with Tammy Miller signs in their yard. At least they did, when we came over here to Kingpins for our gathering tonight. But I was going to ask them if are they so disenchanted with their opposition, maybe you want to come over and vote for me. I don't think that'll probably be very successful. But, I think the path to victory here is, Steve, because of my work that has taken me all across the state in various jobs, various positions, various things I do. I have various enterprises that I've been involved with, radio and television, and my band, and my Dakota Air, the radio show. It's taken me from many, many cities all across the state for the past several years. I know a lot of people, too. I have name recognition. It's different than Kelly Armstrong. Kelly is mostly political, except around, the Dickinson area where he's from. People who know me, they're from all walks of life, from all political stripes and interests. And I think that if I can appeal to them, if I can talk to them, the more voter contact I can make on a personal basis, the better off we'll be. And I'm talking about moderate Republicans and also the independents. And then another thing would be to get all the Democratic nonpartisan leaguers, and you'll have to excuse me, I won't say Democratic nonpartisan league every time, but I love that old NPL, their spirit in that political party that formed over 100 years ago. But if we can get all of the committed and dedicated Dem NPLers out there to vote, get some of the independents, get a few of the moderate Republicans who can go into that booth, they can vote for me, and nobody else knows how they vote, then I think we have a chance to win this election. We're working hard. I get a lot of support wherever we go, just from people on the street. So, yeah, we're fired up, and we have a chance.
More with Merill Piepkorn in just a second, but want to let you know some breaking news. The Associated Press has now called the Republican primary for U.S. House of Representatives for Julie Fedorchuk. Yep. That just coming across a moment ago. She has had a big lead from the very beginning in the vote totals. Right now, she's got more than 30,000 votes. Rick Becker at 19,500. So it's about 45, almost 46% to 29. And so that race, at least at this point, is significantly more of a margin than even any of the latest polling would have led us to believe. So maybe not a surprise if Fedorchuk wins, but certainly the margin, a surprise there as well. More on this one here in just a moment, but we're visiting with Merill Piepkorn, Democrat candidate for governor. Merill, I will tell you that we have heard your campaign messages and your campaign ads here because you were kind enough to let us run some of them for you here for a fair fee on our stations. And I can tell you that your message has impressed us here. The way you articulate your story and talk about finding some opportunity here in the median, staying away from the fringes, talking about the things that most people can agree on. you'll definitely get some attention during your campaign if you continue to press forward on that. So with that being said, what do you think those specific themes are that can unite North Dakotans and give them an alternative to the red candidates who have kind of run roughshod over these processes for several election cycles now?
Well, that's really a good point. And what's happening is that, when it comes to policy and platform, mine is evolving every day because of the people that I talk to every day from the cities that I've visited thus far and the people I've met. And that comes to a lot of the social legislation. You know what? I love librarians and teachers. And a lot of pressure was put on them since the last legislative session that ended in April of 2023. It doesn't seem it wasn't that long ago. So I'll be fighting for people like that. And a lot of these social issues to me, really, let's look at the younger generation. The things that our legislature gets all worked up about and all fired up about it. Oh, we got to change this because this isn't like the good old days. I think the younger generation, they really don't care that much about, people's lives, what they're interested in, sexual orientation, for example. That's not the only thing, but they're pretty much live and let live. And the things that are a big concern to some of us older folks aren't that important to the younger folks. Now, okay, that said, I'm extremely interested in and want to promote local entrepreneurship, young people getting businesses started. We have to have new business. We have to have business growth. And we have to have workers who are interested in, immigration is a big deal on a national basis. Well, you know what? This country was built on immigrants, and we have to figure out how we can get some of those legal immigrants up to North Dakota to work too. So it's not all social issues. It's some of that nuts and bolts stuff too. Getting money to townships and counties and cities for infrastructure, for roads. A friend of mine says, the two things that really matter in politics that people care about is education and roads. And I think that is kind of a building block thing there too. So it's not just all about people's rights and how we treat one another, although that's extremely important. But it's about the infrastructure of our state, the future of it, the future of business, agriculture, and where does, our energy supply, how does our traditional sources of oil and coal and natural gas, how does that blend in with the talk about, wind and solar is already working its way into the mix, and nuclear. So there are a lot of things to consider here, and it's going to be exciting to develop it and see it along its way.
Merill, before I let you go, I have to ask you this question because it's something that a lot of us are talking about here at our stations. I'm sure you talk about it a lot as well. But the question regarding Joe Biden being the person that will be running in November for the Democrats, it does not take anyone to have a controversial drop of blood in their body to say that he is struggling right now on public stages and to carry forward the way he is. Is he the right candidate for your party, or is it time for the Democrats to try to find another alternative to take on Donald Trump in November?
I will say that as governor, I will work with and have to work with whoever is president of the United States, whether that be the former President Trump, whether it be Joe Biden, or whether it be maybe the National Democrats will come up with another alternative for president. And I'm really not all that concerned about it. If I'm interested in it, but I'm not that concerned about it. But I don't think that the National Democrats are necessarily going to be out pounding the pavement for me. But I'm talking about my people here in North Dakota, and that's who I am working for. I think most people would rather see a different candidate for president from both parties, but that's just not the way it is. That's out of my hands. So I'm here to work for the people of North Dakota. But it's interesting to think about. We'll see what happens there. Well,
that was a shrewd job of answering that question, Merill. Well done.
Did I answer it? Did I answer it, or did I dodge it successfully?
I think you said what you needed to say, I think, and we'll respect your answer on that one without creating more of a story here tonight. But we do appreciate the time very much, Merill. Thank you. I'm sure we'll be visiting along the way here, and rest up, my friend, because it's certainly going to be a long and winding trail here for the next few months.
Yeah, we've been on the road already. You know, it is tiring already, but it's invigorating at the same time, meeting people and talking to people. So, yeah, some of each will make it through to November 5th for sure.
Very good. We'll talk to you again soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Steve.
Yeah, Merill Piepkorn, a winner tonight in the Democrat primary for the governor's race here in North Dakota. He will be taking on Kelly Armstrong, who got to basically put the whole thing to bed early tonight as his race was called. All right, I told you a moment ago that the race for U.S. House primary has been called as well. Julie Fedorchuk with about 68,000 votes in across the state, about a half of the precincts fully reporting at 31,502 votes. Rick Becker, a distant second at 20,116, 45.8% to 29.2%. And Tony, I have to say I'm surprised by this number. I thought this was going to be a close race.
Yes.
I thought Fedorchuk would win, but if you would have told me you're looking at a 16-point margin, I would not have believed that.
No, I agree, and I'm also a little bit surprised how many votes Carmon got with that field. Republican primary. So maybe Becker lost a lot of votes to her. I don't know. But yeah, I was expecting a much closer race.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, some statements have come in on some of the wins here. Kelly Armstrong has put out a statement now in his win over Tammy Miller in the Republican governor's primary. Michelle and I, speaking about Michelle Strand and his lieutenant governor candidate, I've been overwhelmed by the outpouring of support from across North Dakota. The grassroots support has been humbling. We want to thank everyone for their trust and confidence. A special thank you to Kirsty and Tom, that's his wife and her husband, for standing by our side through this race. North Dakota's greatest resource is our people. We will move our state forward so every child has an opportunity to call North Dakota home, but we will do it our way, never compromising on what makes this place so special. Together, we will lower property taxes, shrink government, and push back on an overbearing federal government. We will ensure North Dakota remains the best place to live, work, and raise a family. Doug Burgum has come out with a statement as well. Congratulations to Kelly Armstrong and Julie Fedorchuk on their hard-fought primary victories. Competition is great for the Republican Party, and our state is better for it. Spoke with both Kelly and Julie tonight, and we can count on them to stand with President Trump, and that's where the message gets caught up. I guess it's worth noting that these are the two candidates that Donald Trump endorsed in these races.
It's true. Yep.
And so there are the Trump endorsement, certainly in North Dakota.
North Dakota's a big one.
If there's any state where the people love Donald Trump, North Dakota is it.
Okay. Us in Oklahoma is about the best.
Alabama, Mississippi, yes, no question about that. All right, let's do some updates here on the vote count. Let's go down the board. We just talked about the House primary, governor's primary. Those are pretty much decided, as is the superintendent of public instruction, Kirsten Basler. So your winners tonight, Fedorchuk, Armstrong, and Basler. Age limits is going to be passed. About a 60-40 vote right there. Basically, you cannot be 78 years of age and go into a race for Congress, House of Representatives, or the U.S. Senate. Taking a look at some of the Fargo City races, we can give you some updates there as well. It continues to be a very good night for Michelle Turnberg. She is the clear leader at this point. No precincts fully reporting, but altogether with about 20,000 votes in, and again, that's not unique voters, that's just votes because you can vote for as many as you want, but she has a 21.6% margin, or 21.6% of the vote. John Strand in second at 19.2%, Al Carlson in third at 18.1%, Arlette Preston at 16.0%. So I would say that there's definitely a clear top four right now before you get to the others. Tony, Michelle with now about a 500 vote lead on John. John's got a lead on Al Carlson of about 200 votes. And then Arlette Preston is about 400 behind Al Carlson. So that the 2 and 3 race especially, and you are voting for 2. I think that's the fascinating thing to watch here.
I think the votes are almost all in. I mean, we haven't seen an update for over 30 minutes now. So
we have not.
I think this might be it, and they're just waiting and rechecking before they say, "Yep, everyone's in." So.
Yeah, and it's weird because the vote board says that no precincts have fully reported yet,
but all have partially.
All have partially. Yes. So. But yeah, if you're right, we've not seen much of a change there, although it seems to me like Turnberg's lead has grown slightly.
It just changed
from 1 to 2.
It just changed.
And you're seeing an update.
Yep.
That I'm not seeing. Yep.
So
there we go.
John widened his lead. It will be Michelle Turnberg and John Strand at this point. They're up by 800 and 700 votes. So,
yep, 775 it looks like.
So, yeah, I mean, that's 31,000 votes counted. So that, I mean, this has to be close to the end. Has to be.
So right now it is Turnberg. I'll give you the vote count first at 6,561. Strand at 6,224. Al Carlson in third at 5,503. Preston at 5,243. So percentage-wise, Turnberg 21.1, Strand 20.0. Carlson 17.7, Preston 16.9.
She'd have to get 20% more votes than she already has even to get to that top 2. So I think
say that one more time.
Arlette Preston is down by 1,000 votes for the second place. So that's pretty significant.
Yes, that's a good way to say it.
Yep.
And even Al Carlson right now to be 725 votes behind at this point of the night.
That's a lot.
I mean, the polls have been closed for 2.5 hours now in Fargo. You've got to think that just about all those votes are in. Well, we're going to see if that holds. But, Tony, that would be a major story. I did not know how the voters of Fargo would respond to Michelle. She's got that name recognition, but so does Al Carlson. And he's kind of got that sort of kind of center-right, but a guy who kind of can get things done, sort of a no-drama kind of common-sense conservative candidate. I thought he might show a little higher in these numbers.
Some of these state guys, I think, overestimate the name recognition. Okay, like yes, as a state rep, he was very well known. He was respected by a lot of people. But you've seen many. I've run against many former representatives out there in Bismarck here at the Fargo City Commission who didn't show well because I don't think people outside of their voting district necessarily know who they are. So yeah, Al Carlson, I think most people do know who he is. And I am surprised by Michelle Turnberg being this far ahead her first time running.
And I'm surprised that Arlette Preston isn't higher. I just assumed that she had, and the final numbers maybe aren't in, but I just assumed that she was, I mean, she'd been around for how many? She'd been, 2 terms?
2 terms, and then she did 2 terms in the late 90s.
Yes.
I'll tell you this, though. When she ran for mayor, she got 5,200 votes. So she's got 5,243 votes.
So the same 5,200 people still like her, yeah. So it looks like we will have 1 new city commissioner and 1 incumbent returning. Now, things can change. We'll continue to update you on that. Let's take a look at Fargo School Board. That's another one that we have been following closely, and we're starting to see maybe a little bit more of separation now. With your top 4. There are 9 candidates going for 4 spots, and the top 4 has not changed in a while. Kristen Nelson continues to lead the way. Allie Ohlenberger in second. Jason Nelson third. Nikki Gullickson in fourth. Gullickson and Seth Holden were the 2 incumbents that were running for to regain their seats. Seth Holden right now is in 7th, where he has been for quite some time now at about 9.7% of the vote. So Kristen Nelson, kind of the newcomer, but one that was endorsed by the Fargo Education Association. The number 1, Allie Ohlenberger, was endorsed as well, and Jason Nelson, number 3. All 3 endorsed. Paul Moore, who was the 4th, is behind Nikki Gullickson now by about 550 votes. So it's going to be tough for him to sneak into the top 4.
For sure. You suppose that endorsement has a lot of weight with the voters?
Well, it did last time. In 2022, it was the 4 candidates that were endorsed that went. And over time, we've learned that it's not always the incumbents that the Education Association endorses. And certainly that was the case this time. Neither of the incumbents were endorsed by the Fargo Education Association. And I have to say this, as someone who's gotten to know Allie Ohlenberger and respects her a lot, I just thought that when she got involved in that recall effort a little over a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, I just thought that she might have burned some bridges with the teachers union, but apparently she didn't. She got the endorsement, and she's going to end up, it looks like right now, finishing in the top 4, and right now she's at number 2.
Yep.
All right, so let's take a look at West Fargo here as we can update some vote totals here. A lot of votes have come in the last 10, 15 minutes, and your new leader in the scoreboard is Amy Zundel, 28.6%. Rory Jorgensen in second at 25.9. Deanne Reed is in third at 17.1. Tyler Erickson in fourth at 14.7. John Severson at 13.0. Tony, you talk about another race where the numbers just don't look friendly for anybody outside the top 2. Deanne Reed is now 550 votes basically behind Rory Jorgensen for second. It just looks like that's too much ground to make up at this point.
That's a lot of votes in West Fargo. What's their total right now?
6,100.
Yep. So if you have 500, that's a pretty big percentage.
It's a pretty big jump.
And that assumes that your opponent doesn't get any more votes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's a lot of people in West Fargo. I don't know what the population of West Fargo is as far as like voters eligible. It's got to be, 50, 60,000, isn't it?
No. West Fargo's population, I think, is 45,000.
Oh, 40. I thought it was bigger than that.
No. And also remember this.
With all the growth,
they've got a lot of kids. So their school district is bigger than Fargo.
The district is big.
So the
school. Okay.
They have a lot of people who don't vote.
Okay. All right. So let's update as well the Horace election, Horace City Council. And we can update these numbers as well. They have changed, but not much. Naomi Birkeland and Rachel Dwyer at 32 and 31% of the vote. Jordan Krause in third at 24%. You're voting for 2 of those 3 there. Okay, so we covered that. Joel Vettel continues to lead Cass County District 5. It looks like that's pretty much a done deal at this point. He has led like basically 58-22 for quite a while.
It's that number 2 spot that you got to watch out for. So that's who he'll run against.
Thank you for that, Tony. And so Keith Godis in second has about a 5 percentage point lead over Marty Johnson, about 800 votes, so 3,900 to 3,100, about 17,000 votes in on that one so far. So thank you for the clarification there. Okay, I think that updates the board as far as the races. And if you're just joining us, there are some cities like Kindred who's having elections, but there's not a lot of contests there where there's multiple candidates running, so we're not spending a lot of time there. All right, let's check in now with Tom Tucker, and he is at the Republicans event in South Fargo at Rose Creek at CJ's Restaurant. Tom, take it away.
Hey, Steve, I was asked to give just kind of a quick scene setter here, so that's what you're going to get. About 125 party faithful still gathered here tonight, and most of the attention right now is focused, and rightly so, on Michelle Turnberg and Allie Olenberger. Michelle Turnberg, running for Fargo City Commission and doing well in that race, and Allie Olenberger for Fargo School Board currently in second place. Some other elected officials here tonight as well: Randy Chrisman, Tony Grinberg, West Fargo Mayor Bernie Dardis, Ben Koppelman, and Jim Casper as well. So everybody seems to be in a good mood here tonight. But again, all eyes right now focused on Turnberg and Olenberger, and optimistic that those races will turn out their way. So that's the scene here at the CJ's in South Fargo, Steve.
Okay, thank you, Tom, very much. Appreciate the update there. Our Ty Schonert is he's working over at Kingpins
The
tonight.
race is called for the City Commission for Fargo.
Okay, this just in, City Commission race being called. Tony, tell us what you're seeing.
Michelle Turnberg with 6,850 votes. It takes the first place. John Strand with 6,579 takes number 2. Al Carlson in third with 5,746.
Okay, and I'm just getting a word that school board has also called. Yes, we're seeing the check marks. You have 3 new school board members: Kristen Nelson, Allie Olenberger, Jason Nelson, the newcomers joining incumbent Nikki Gullickson on the Fargo School Board. Those 4, we're kind of tracking 1 through 4 in the entire night. I think the biggest surprise to me here is the incumbent Seth Holden. Tony finishes 7th out of 9. And quite a ways behind, 800 votes behind Nikki Gullickson in 4th.
Yeah.
So you've got 3 new school board members. Allie Olenberger was her second go around. For both Nelsons, it was their first try. Nikki Gullickson is the incumbent who's gained another term there. And yes, the check marks now appearing is City of Fargo, Michelle Turnberg and John Strand, City Commission. Strand, the incumbent, going back now for his third and what would be a final term.
That's correct.
And then Michelle Turnberg, the former TV news anchor, decided at the very last minute to get into this race, and she ends up the leading vote getter. 6,852, John Strand 6,579. So hopefully Tom Tucker will be able to catch up with both. I believe Allie and Michelle Turnberg are both at that party at Rose Creek, so hopefully we can catch up with them here momentarily. Guys, if we're able to maintain any contact with Tom, it looks like there's some wins, so if that's possible to get Tom with them, that would be very notable for us.
All right.
Okay, let's go to Michelle Turnberg, and she is live on the line with us. And is Tom with her, or is she speaking with us, guys? We are with Michelle.
Steve, I am here with Michelle Turnberg, but I'll let you go ahead and talk to
great.
The winning candidate here if you'd like.
It doesn't matter to us, Tom, but any chance we get to talk to a winner, we'll take it. Michelle, Steve Hallstrom, and Tony Gehrig here, congratulations on your win.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much. How exciting.
So tell us the emotions. Is it relief? Is it excitement? Is it I'm not going to sleep tonight? What are the emotions going through you right now?
I'm very excited. I've already had people come up to me with budget and line item ideas, so I'm a little overwhelmed.
They are not wasting any time at CJ's tonight, huh?
No, but a lot of excitement here at our watch party, and I'm just thrilled with the support and the people that came out to vote, and just very thankful for that. So, yeah, I'm just really excited for what's to come.
What do you think made the difference, Michelle? Why did your candidacy resonate with the voters of this city, do you think? You beat everybody in this field, including two incumbents that were thought to have very strong support. What about your message, do you think, really connected with the voters?
You know, I want to say it was the Trump comment, actually. I think that was
I think she's right.
Really resonated.
I think she's right.
A lot of people. I'm proud of it, and I think it's what connected a lot of people to me. I think the name recognition did help. You know, I'm a trusted individual that people had in their living room for years, and there's someone that they can trust.
Michelle, what about your positions? Do you think where did you listen to the voters and really try to take their comments to heart, where you kind of formed some of your policy points that you think really connected with them? What did you hear from the voters that you took to heart and really spoke passionately about that you think maybe got you some votes in this election?
I think people are really concerned about crime in the city. They're wanting to feel safe. Fargo's getting to be a bigger and bigger city, so we really need to work with law enforcement, and I think that's something that will definitely be first and foremost on my priority list. So that and common sense, bringing common sense back to the commission, I think that's a big ticket item as well.
Tell me, what challenges do you think you'll face now going in as kind of the only newcomer, because John Strand also won election tonight as an incumbent. So you will be the new face. What will be the challenges as you work your way into that panel of 5 people and some strong personalities and some big opinions in that group? What will be the challenges as you get your feet wet in that new situation?
Yeah, well, this is my first time entering into politics, and so there'll definitely be a bit of a learning curve there, but I want to be open for people to approach me, to bring their concerns to me, and so I can bring them to the commission. I want to speak for the people and really be someone that is helpful. So, yeah, I'm ready to learn. I think there's a lot of learning that will have to be done. And I'm just ready for the challenge.
Well, Michelle, we thank you for taking the time and to think back to that comment you talked about, the Trump support here in the debate that we had in our office or in our studio, to think that maybe that one evening that we got to be a part of, a small part of, had something to do with how it all turned out. It is kind of a surreal thought for all of us here, but we're very thankful that you've been so accessible to us along the way, that you've given us time when needed, and we're excited to cover your new career as City Commissioner, Ms. Turnberg.
Well, thank you very much. I'm excited for it as well. And, people were looking for a conservative voice, and I think they found it.
Very good. Commissioner, congratulations.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You bet. That's Michelle Turnberg, elected tonight to the Fargo City Commission. Also elected to the Fargo City Commission, John Strand, who's back now for a third term as he wins re-election as one of the two incumbents who was running and was successful here tonight. John, congratulations from myself and Tony and everybody here at the Flag and WDAY.
Thanks very sincerely. I'm really trying to get grounded here and process the information, but it's humbling and it's honoring and it gets your heart beating for sure. So thank you very sincerely.
Tell me about what you think made a difference on the campaign trail. Why do you think voters saw fit to give you another opportunity to be back on the commission?
I don't know exactly. My guess is that a lot of folks don't always agree with my politics necessarily, but they appreciate my heart, and they value my passion, and they see that I'll stand up to issues and at times face them head on and not be cowering or fearful of honesty and addressing things head on. So I think there's a refreshingness to that, even though it doesn't mean you're always prevailing and it doesn't mean you're always winning, but it means you're bringing to the table perspectives that maybe aren't otherwise there. And I think that people see that and appreciate that. I believe they do, and I hope they do.
John, Tony here. I've been kind of saying this all night, and there's a kind of a duality with who's getting elected in these races. And today it was you and Michelle Turnberg, who I don't see as
political peas in a pod.
I don't see you guys meeting eye to eye on a lot of issues. Why do you suppose the voters chose pretty different candidates to pick 1 and 2 for the Fargo City Commission?
It's hard to tell. It's just like, why did the Fargo Forum endorse two distinctly different personalities, right, political entities? But maybe in the end, that diversity is. And I really do appreciate. I really wish Arlette Preston the best, but I'm glad there's another female voice at the table. I think that's important to have that type of diversity too, and Michelle's very articulate, and she's a person they know. They have a sense of her, so it'll be really an interesting new few chapters unfolding.
John, as we go forward, I know we'll have many more chances to visit with you, but I want to echo what you said. The day after we had our debate here, I was asked who won the debate, and I said John Strand won the debate. I might have even said it that night, and I said I don't even think it was close, because you, of all the candidates, you can tell that you care very much about what you're talking about. Like you said, you're passionate about it. You speak from the heart and you bring emotion to it. And that matters. Whether people agree on every issue, that's seldom going to happen. But I think people really do believe that you care about people and that you care about the city. And I think that has always spoken well for you. And you're the person who's the quote unquote veteran in many of these conversations, but you have not lost your passion for what you do, and that's commendable, no matter where people stand politically or if they agree on every issue. So I thought you ran a very good campaign. You obviously are someone that knows how to connect well on an emotional level with people, and that has certainly played a big part in this. So congratulations to you, and we look forward to covering you for another 4 years on the Fargo City Commission.
I really appreciate hearing from you guys, and my best to you as well. We will be in touch for sure for the next 2 years, of course.
That sounds great. Thank you so much, John. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
See you, John.
Sincerely.
John
Bye-bye.
Strand, yes, going back to the City Commission for a third term. All right, we're going to send it back to Tom Tucker, and he is standing by with a victorious Allie Olenberger, and it's been a long time coming for that young lady. Tom, take it away.
Steve, yeah, that's right. Second time is a charm for Allie Ullenberger. She joins us now. Just spoke to a crowd of Republicans gathered here at CJ's. What a night for you. What are you thinking? What are you feeling?
I'm honored, I'm humble, and I'm just so grateful to everybody throughout the support in this race and the last one, right? I mean, obviously this being the second time around, I wish we could have been having this victory speech 2 years ago, but I cannot wait to walk into my next school board meeting with my head held high as a board member. I'm ready. I'm ready to dig in. I'm ready to get after things, and I'm just so grateful. Thank you all.
I see your eyes welling up a little bit, as they did earlier tonight during another live interview that we had. You've got some emotion behind this. How and why is that the case? I
mean, a friend told me one time, Allie, you don't ever do anything with half of your heart. You put 110% into everything that you do. And I was so grateful that friend told me that, because I was like, sometimes I don't think that people see that. And I do. Everything that I do, you get 110%. I don't know how to do things half-assed, as my husband would say. And I am just so grateful to be able to make a difference in the lives of this community, of these kids, to stand up for our teachers that feel like they don't have a voice. I'm ready to be that voice and to get some common sense and some things moving in support of our teachers so that they can provide the amazing education that they do. And I'm just honored to be able to go do this work.
Yeah, as you mentioned, unfortunately, your husband is out of town tonight, so I'm sure it'll be a happy reunion when you get to see him and to celebrate with him. But as you've shared with us in the past, you are a military veteran. You are a business executive with a high-tech company and a mom as well. That's a lot on your plate. What is it like to have the kids in the Fargo Public School District right now prior to your arrival on the school board? I mean, what are some of the things that you're concerned about that you want to get to work on right away?
Number one thing I would say is the safety of our buildings, right? So we do have 2 buildings today that don't actually have secure entrances. That's a huge concern, and that's number one thing that could easily be taken care of, irregardless of where this long-range plan goes. We need to have secure buildings, especially for those being 2 elementary schools. I think that's first and foremost. Secondarily, really understanding and sitting down and getting to talk with the teachers. Obviously, we go through the union and we meet with just a small panel to get the FEA endorsement, but I want to hear directly from the teachers. I have conversations with a lot of them already. I want to hear from more of them. I want to understand what the challenges are that they have in their classrooms. I know, first and foremost, behaviors is a big, huge thing. So I'd like to work together with them to put together some strategies and figure out how, as a board member, I can support those strategies in our classrooms.
It wasn't that long ago that you were at odds with the Fargo School Board, leading recall efforts and fighting the board over the board's position on masks and social distancing and some of the COVID protocols. Now you are a board member. Are you going to come in and shake things up a bit? And should those who are on the board right now be shaking in their boots a little bit?
Well, actually, Tom, so the only person that now, out of those folks that went to be recalled, right, was Nikki Gullickson. So she did get reelected tonight. Out of all of the ones that we were looking to recall, Nikki was the one who I would kind of, really feel like didn't necessarily do anything to be facing a recall, right? We obviously had things against Jim Johnson, Tracy Newman, and Seth Holden, obviously across the board as to why specific folks felt very strongly about recalling those, and Nikki really didn't have much. And so, unfortunately, she was one of those 4th members that was like, we'll just put her in there too. And you now go to a new board. Like, this is outside of Robin Nelson. This is a brand new board. None of the serving members outside of now Nikki and Robin were even serving during when those decisions were made. I think this last election cycle, we brought in some new, fresh perspectives on things. And I think that I'm happy to work with a lot of them. I did run against them in the last election cycle, so I did get to meet them, understand where they stand on different perspectives. And I know that there is common ground that we can find to come together on and work together in support of the educators.
Mm-hmm. Again, congratulations to you tonight, to Allie Ullenberger, one of the newest members of the Fargo School Board.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. And reach me anytime. I'm happy to get to work for all of you.
All right. Thanks so much. Steve, that's it from CJ's here in South Fargo. Back to you guys.
That sounds good. Thank you, Tom. We can give you final results now from West Fargo. The city races have been called there as well. Amy Zundel and Rory Jorgensen will be the 2 new city commissioners, joining the other 3 members there on that city commission. They were the 2, Tony, that have been in front really from the beginning.
Yep.
Amy Zundel, the leading vote getter, fairly unknown, a newcomer. Her and her husband both involved in law enforcement in West Fargo, but probably not maybe the name that Rory Jorgensen had, but certainly someone that the people definitely trusted. She ends up taking the top spot with 28.6% of the vote. Rory Jorgensen at 25.9%. Deanne Reed, and then there was a gap. Deanne Reed at 17.1% at 1,064. Now, Deanne has only lived here for about a year, if I remember right.
Yeah,
and
a little bit over. Yep.
Yeah, so maybe just a little more time might
run again. We'll do it again.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we see what happened with Ali Olenberger running again, and sometimes it takes a couple of whacks at the pinata. Tyler Erickson in fourth, and then John Severson in fifth place. Erickson at 14.8% of the vote. Severson at 12.9% of the vote there. In Horace, Mayor Jeff Trudeau did not have any opposition, so he wins easily. Naomi Birkeland and Rachel Dwyer are the two that win that election there. Jordan Krause in third, about 7 percentage points behind there. And Cass County Commission, District 5, which was the one that had competition, Joel Vettel and Keith Godis will advance now to November after winning in the primary today. All right, we want to tell you you're listening to continuing coverage of Primary Night 2024 on WDAY Fargo, WZFG Dilworth. Our Scott Hennen is on the line, and Scott's had a busy night in the business trail tonight, but now a chance to catch up with him on what has been a very busy night. Scotty, I imagine you've been able to catch most of the headlines here. What are your thoughts and perspectives on this primary night?
Well, I'm impressed with the turnout. For as much as we were concerned, that turnout number came up pretty nice. Last number I've seen was 87,000 voting on Election Day. That compares to 55,000 in 2022, and it was tracking way low in the early vote. So I guess we found out people don't like early vote and all work for a living during the week, but on Election Day they get out, so that was good news. And then obviously the Fedorchuk victory by such a strong margin, I think is pretty significant tonight. And Kelly, obviously that race called early for governor as well. So those two big ones are the ones we've been tracking mostly, but I'm picking up on some of the local ones you guys are talking about as well. Sounds like an interesting night all around. So it's and I've also been tracking a few of the legislative races. Actually, I was with a number of legislators tonight in Grand Forks and watching a lot of the races that were hotly contested in primaries, and most of the incumbents have been successful there so far tonight. So I'm not aware of any upsets yet that have been called one way or another on the legislative front. So interesting night.
We bring Jane Thomas into the conversation as well. So Steve Hallstrom, Tony Gehrig in studio, Jay Thomas and Scott Hennen on location. Guys, the race, the governor's race on the Republican side, I just didn't see this coming. 72% now for Armstrong, 26.9% for Tammy Miller. This is one of the most decisive races, Jay Thomas, that I remember seeing in North Dakota politics. I guess we knew from the polling that Armstrong was probably in a really good spot, but I didn't see 72-26 coming.
Yeah, that is a huge number. I thought it was going to be closer than that. I mean, that's it is what it is. But Kelly he's just so well known. He's liked in the state, and this is nothing against Tammy Miller. If either one of them would have won, we would have been sitting good. But I'm with you, Steve. I didn't think it would be a blowout that big. But I got to tell you this while I'm on with you guys real quick. Wow, what a night. Michelle Turnberg on the Fargo City Commission. That is going to be so good for Fargo. And, Steve, I heard your interview with John Strand, and you did such a classy interview with him, Steve. I like John Strand. I don't agree with his politics, his look on things, but John is a nice man. And you know what? John's going to do good another term in there. He really is. I was surprised. I thought L. Carlson was going to get one of those spots, guys.
Same. Yeah, same. Oh, I didn't know if he'd get one of the spots, but I thought he would do better than Michelle Turnberg did, and I don't know why. I just wondered if voters, Tony, would see Michelle, the TV news anchor and all that, but voters do trust her, and maybe more than I thought maybe would tonight.
I didn't think Al was going to win a spot. I thought it would be the incumbents, quite frankly, because it's really hard to walk in as a brand new person. Her name recognition must be more important than we're putting on. You know what I mean? Just the fact people know who she is, or at least can remember that name. That must be a huge deal because she crushed the competition.
Well, years on TV, she was so respected. You know, she has a love for the community, and I think that really helped her.
Yeah, Scott?
Al Carlson obviously had the name ID, too. I mean, he was on the ballot a lot in Fargo in a big district. So it does surprise me, especially since obviously there was a little bit of mood for change there. But I think Michelle Turnberg is going to be a great addition. I think she'll work hard, and Tony can tell you that'll change the ideological balance of that city commission, and that's going to be one that, in my mind, is very welcome because it's badly needed.
Scott, this is a big point, and I'm glad you made it because I hadn't thought of that, but we've talked about this quite a bit, is that you've got Dave Piepkorn, who generally leans right on issues. You've got you had two incumbents in Strand and Preston who were fairly left. You had Denise Kolpak, who's probably center left, and then you had Tim Mahoney, who's center, maybe a little bit left as well. But now you bring a conservative like Turnberg in there, and I think that's got the ability to move Mahoney back to a clear center. So I think you're going to have a very balanced city commission, Scott.
Yeah, I just think, obviously, Arlette Preston was by far the most liberal. John Strand probably a close second to that. I think the mayor is much more pragmatic about it all, and so I think it's great. I think it's going to be very interesting, and Michelle will do a nice job. She's obviously done very well for herself in the business world after leaving the media scene, and I think she'll be a great addition to that Fargo City Commission. That's some much-needed change there, and obviously we got it at the school board too. So that's saying something. You know, I think people are ready for a change, and that good, strong turnout certainly made a difference. So it's a good night.
Consider this, Steve. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize, guys. I want to delay here. I think the Fargo School Board, which I have no dog in that race, getting Allie on that school board is going to make a huge difference. And it was amazing. And I know Steve and Scott, you guys have brought this up many times on your shows, to have the teachers union back the candidates they did. That tells you that people and even they want to change.
Yeah,
there's one person I wouldn't want to be tonight, and that's Rupak Gandhi, because you've got a governor coming in who said, you know what, you're breaking the law, and we're going to take your funding away. And you've got some elected members of that school board now who've run on essentially saying that the administration's out of control. So I wouldn't want to be him tonight. That's for sure.
I think one of the biggest
people are just sick and tired of crime. When it comes to the city, I think they're sick and tired of as a parent, not having control of their children and being told that, no, you know what, you aren't the parents, we're the parents. No, those are not your children, they're my children. And I think people have said enough is enough.
I want to talk about Seth Holden for a minute, the one incumbent that did not gain re-election to the school board and finished 7th of the 9 candidates. When we had the city or the school board debate here, candidate forum debate, whatever you would call it, he was probably the most loyal of the two incumbents talking about Rupak Gandhi and basically saying, we've got to trust our leader. He's going to do the right thing. And with so many things in the news where there's been conversation about, do we have the right direction there? Maybe the voters of Fargo are sending a message that, look, if you've got as many people, and in that debate, there were a number of candidates who said, the people feel like if they speak their mind, there's going to be retribution, and people are nervous about all that. Maybe being the loyal deputy there worked against him in some way.
If our schools were doing really well, I think it would be a different story. But our schools are not doing really well. And we're behind in reading and math and all those things. So when you're doing bad academically, and then you have all these other issues that come in, whatever you want to talk about, breaking the law or whatever else, I think it compounds it, and it's not a great time to be that loyal to
people want to change.
Yes, to a board.
Well, the last thing you do is you back a superintendent who basically says, "You parents, you know what? I'll decide for you." And if you're a school board member candidate and you're going to back that, people have had it. They've had it. A message was sent tonight, guys, not just on the school board, but on a commission level as well. We've had it. We've had it. It is time to take our stuff back, our stuff being our children, our cities, our taxes, everything else. And I think, guys, we are going to see some big changes coming forward.
Yeah, I want
to say one other thing about Seth Holden, guys, because he was endorsed by the Democrats. Obviously, there's Cass County, if you're going to say any endorsement that's going to help you in the state, it would be from the Democrats. And obviously people had enough of his act. And even didn't matter that he was endorsed by the Democrats. That's significant that he is 7th place. Unbelievable.
Well, I think if you look at the numbers, though, you still have a very loyal school board to Dr. Gandhi. You had Kristen Nelson and Nikki Gullickson, 2 of the 4 that won tonight, that said unequivocally in our debate, I support that decision that Dr. Gandhi made. You had 2 that said they didn't, Olenberger and Nelson, along with Paul Moore, who did not make the top 4. But so now you have 2 of 9 that stand on those grounds. So I don't know if you've got, Jay, you made the point earlier, you got a pretty seismic shift on the Fargo City Commission, but I think the Fargo School Board, while you've got a couple of strong voices now that maybe see things differently than the group, I think you still have a lot of people that tend to lean the same way on that school board.
Yeah, and they knew that, obviously, that it was going to take a while. I mean, I think that's a work in progress, Steve, but you're absolutely right. It's not going to change anything. I would say this, though, the endorsement from the teachers union is going to be something that is going to be, I think, a problem for Rupa Gandhi and the administration, because you've now got a couple of change agents on that school board, and you've got the teachers union attention as well. So I don't think it's going to be easy going, but it's certainly not, that battle's not won yet for our schools, that's for sure.
Well, in the last 2 elections, you have 7 of the 8 people that the school union endorsed have won. Last, in 2022, all 4 of them. Tonight, 3 of the 4 of them won. So that endorsement still matters, Jay.
It does. It does. It's going to take some time to move that school board over. I think, guys, the big news tonight really is the city of Fargo. To get Michelle Turnberg on there, Al Carlson, he was close. But I think what you're seeing is people going, okay, enough of just downtown Fargo, enough of the crime, enough of all the garbage that's going on, enough of the outrageous spending for pet projects. We've had it. We need to rein stuff in, and we need to focus on Fargo. I love downtown Fargo. Don't get me, I don't hang out there. I think it's gorgeous. There's been almost $1 billion or maybe even over $1 billion down there. But people have had it, and you have a city commission that has sat and buried their head in the sand. You have a chief of police that can't make a decision, and people are going, we've had it. We're sick of standing in our driveways or sitting in our backyards at night and hearing nothing but sirens, waking up every morning and finding out this person outran the police, this person ran out the police, and all we hear is about, oh, you know what? We've got to coddle this person. We've got to do this. The people have said enough's enough. We need some guts on that city commission. And to have Michelle Turnberg on there is fantastic. This is such a good move forward for Fargo.
All right, so let's give you a chance to weigh in on this. If you want to give a comment, try to analyze some results, your perspective, you get to be the next star of the show, 701-271-1100. We're going to open up the phone lines right now, and you can get on the program and tell us what you think about what happened tonight. I think we've gone through pretty much all the races, but Jay, as Mr. West Fargo himself, I've got to get your thoughts on what happened with the West Fargo Commission race tonight with Amy Zundel and Rory Jorgensen taking those 2 spots.
This is really good for West Fargo. I've known Mark Simmons, commissioner, for 20 years. Mark is a good man. He said, you know what, I've had enough. I shouldn't say that. He said, you know what, it's just time to retire. You had Mandy George, whose career has just exploded as a pilot. We're so proud of her. I'm so proud of her saying, look, I can't do both. I got to step away. The candidates that we had out here, we had 5 candidates for 2 seats, and this city would not have gone wrong with anybody that got elected. But now that the election's over, and people know this, I've known Rory Jorgensen for over 20 years. And he born, raised here. He knows the city. He's very fiscally conservative. He's about looking at the numbers, looking at, okay, this is right, this is wrong, and I will speak my mind about it. I've hounded Rory for years to go on the commission. That is going to be good for us. Amy Zundal, don't know her, met her. Her husband, law enforcement. She's law enforcement. She's a business owner. She is very attuned to the same. Look, is this what we should be spending our money on? Is this what we should be doing? I think what has happened tonight for West Fargo, and I love earlier when you guys had Rory Jorgensen on. He didn't say, Steve, you asked him something, and he said, my town. And as soon as he said town, I'm like, yes, this is still a town. We have to treat this like a town. We have to look at it as a town. We're not a big city. We are a big city, but we're not. I still have this town mentality, and so does Amy. Guys, I got to tell you, this is big for West Fargo.
Okay. All right. If you want to weigh in, and by the way, we are getting some data in now before we, Craig is going to be first up on the phone lines, but Cass County voter turnout is now apparently final, we're getting word. 14.5% of eligible voters turned out tonight, and in the early voting, absentee, all of that. 145,035 eligible voters. There were 21,065 ballots cast, 14.5%. Looking statewide right now, we still have a number of precincts to report, and we're already at 18.5%. So we're going to do better, Scott, in the statewide numbers than it looks like we're going to end up doing in Cass County tonight.
Yeah, interesting, but I think it's a lot better than it was tracking. I really do think that that's the good news here, and that's obviously the big concern was Rick Becker has a very, very loyal group of supporters, and if there was a low turnout, that favored him. Because, his voters are going to get there. But obviously the Fedorchuk operation had a good voter turnout operation and got their voters out, and that race was not close.
No.
I think that's probably the surprise of the night. I honestly thought it would be closer than it was, but that's a big victory there. I think look at Caramun. Last I saw, Caramun was in second place at Cass County. Becker was third place. So, her numbers were higher than I thought they would be as well. I don't know if that means some Democrats said I got nothing to vote for on the Democratic side, so I'm gonna go to the Republican side and try to create a little chaos there. But I am happy that we shouldn't be happy with less than 2 in 10 eligible voters getting to the polls. But South Dakota had 11% a week ago, and we were tracking for pretty low. So I think we did better than it looked like for a while, which I take as good news.
All right,
guys,
so
I think we did better than we thought we were going to do.
Yeah, I think that's Scott kind of said some version of that. I think that's exactly right. Okay, we've got a few minutes for you to weigh in. We want to know what you think about what happened tonight. Did your candidates win? Did they lose? How about your predictions? What surprised you about what happened here tonight? What do you think these results tell us about what's happening in Fargo, West Fargo, and in North Dakota? Craig is first up. Craig, good evening. What are your thoughts on what's happened tonight?
Well, the good people of Fargo did themselves a big favor by getting Michelle Turnberg in over Arlette. But I will tell you, Al Carlson would have been the number one for my vote. But thank God it'll be fun watching the commission meetings now with Arlette gone and Michelle in there. But they missed the boat on Al.
Yeah, I mean,
that's all I have to say.
Yeah, Scott, you literally couldn't you couldn't go further on the spectrum than Arlette Preston and Michelle Turnberg with where they stood on a lot of things.
No question about it. I mean, but I think Michelle Turnberg obviously said the right things in this race. I think you about dropped over when during our debate she said she backed Donald Trump, which you didn't think was necessarily the smartest thing politically to say in Cass County or for Fargo voters, but obviously tonight was a Trump night. I think that also gave a lot of wind to Julie Fedorchuk. That was there were a lot of Trump voters that were out there tonight, and that might have been one of the reasons that she edged Al out. Did Al come in third?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So he was third last time too. So
that's right. Yeah.
With like 14 candidates that time. So I would have thought too, like Craig is saying, I would have thought this Al Carlson with the the history of having been in the legislature and ran a pretty good campaign. Didn't run any radio ads, though, so maybe that was the difference.
Well, that might be. Yeah, Scott, I will own that. I thought at the time that it was very risky and probably even an unforced error to go that strong in the city of Fargo, but you got to remember that there's a lot of people in Fargo who see life from a conservative lens, and I just thought it was a risky move, and I'm not sure that I would have done it, but she did, and I'll eat the crow on that one because she's a winner tonight, and I don't know if it's that alone or the having some name recognition. I don't know, but clearly she did. I mean, you can't do better than number one out of 7 different people, no doubt about that. Craig, thanks very much for giving us a call. We appreciate you checking in here tonight. All right. Well, it looks like the fine voters of Fargo, Moorhead, West Fargo have basically gone to bed here. So, people are they'll wake up and find out in the morning, or they've kind of had enough to say about it. So let's maybe do kind of once around the table here, and then I will kind of recap the results again as we sign off here and call it an evening. So, Scott, we'll let you go first. So what needs to be said about tonight?
Well, I think, I think that there's change in the air, and I think that's good. I really do. I think, to me, the race that was the one that was going to draw people out tonight was the House race with a 4-way race, and the dynamics of an endorsed candidate by the Republican Party that had never been on the ballot before. Julie Fedorchuk, who obviously was on the ballot before as a Public Service Commission member, but never ran for a high-profile seat like that. And then Rick Becker with obviously strong support and very loyal support. That was the race, I think, to draw people out. And the significant win by Julie Fedorchuk with all the mudslinging and everything that happened back and forth there, pretty significant. I'm very excited that in Fargo we've got some hints of people paying attention to this race and making a difference and making an informed choice, and to give us some much-needed change on the Fargo City Commission and the Fargo School Board, even though that one will be an uphill battle. But all in all, good night for the conservative cause, gentlemen.
All right, Scott, thanks very much for the comments and for hanging with us here tonight as we wrap things up, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Jay, give you the your last comment here. What needs to be said about tonight?
I got to go with Scott. I mean, wow. We are seeing changes. School board, yep, in Fargo, that's still an uphill battle, but some good things were done. The city commission in Fargo, to have Michelle Turnberg on there, I think that is going to shake things up in a good way for Fargo. You have a law and order candidate on there. You have somebody that is very fiscally conservative. She's going to keep an eye. Okay, we do this, we don't do that. I think all around, Steve, I think it was a good night tonight. It really was. I'm still kind of surprised about Al Carlson. I thought Al was going to get on. Nothing yet. I love Michelle. Know Michelle for years. I think she's going to be fantastic. I thought Al would have got on there before Michelle did. But at the end of the day, Fargo, this is a good thing. West Fargo, I'm pumped. I'm so pumped about Rory and Amy. I really am. All our candidates out here were good. I'm not doing that to pound sand. They were good. We would have won anyway as a city, but we've got good candidates out here. And this just goes to show you why you have to go out and vote. You voted tonight for the government that's closest to you. And I think tonight's been a good night all the way around, Steve.
Thank you, Jay. Appreciate that, my friend. And thanks for being with us to give some perspective here on the races. And we'll talk to you tomorrow in the office, my friend.
You hung up already.
I guess he said the heck with you guys. Yeah.
Hey, Steve, I have one question for you. How did the statewide measure do on the 80 and over limit on the?
Yeah, it passed. People want the age limits. Let me call up the last note here. And sorry, I'm going to do a little producing on the fly. Addison, I was just trying to tell you that with our final comments here and then wrapping up the races, we're going to need to go past 29:50, but we won't go much past that. Okay? No, you're telling me we do need to be out. Okay. All right, then. Okay.
It'll be a quick recap.
It'll be a quick recap. 60, basically 61 to 39. Yes vote wins.
Wow. There's the Biden rule.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Scott, thanks much, buddy. Appreciate you checking in with us, and we'll see you back in the office tomorrow.
All right. Nice job, gentlemen. Great night.
Thanks, Scott. Tony, I guess just some closing thoughts from you.
I'll be real brief.
What do we need to know
in
about
the city
tonight?
of Fargo, you have a mayor who's retiring in 2 years, who's going to be termed out. You're going to have at least 2 commissioners, Dave Piepkorn and Denise Kolpak, run for that position, which means they're not going to run for their own seats, which means you have 2 seats open for new people to come in. That means you could have in 2 years, you could have a new mayor and you could have 2 new city commissioners, along with Michelle Turnberg, who's going to be there, and along with John Strand, who's on his last term.
Yeah.
Within the next 6 years, you're going to have a completely different Fargo City Commission.
Mm-hmm.
So moves like this, having an incumbent lose and having a new person come in, it's a big deal because in no time at all, we're going to have a completely different look and feel to the City Commission.
Yeah, well, I think the biggest, as I look at kind of seismic shifts in philosophies or ideologies of city commissions, I just can't express to you in more concrete terms. You're removing I'm not saying one is good, one is bad for the purposes of this broadcast on these stations tonight.
Yep.
But I'm just telling you, you cannot overemphasize the massive shift we had on that commission tonight.
Yep.
With Arlette Preston being removed and Michelle Turnberg coming in. You cannot find, I mean, they of all the candidates, they were the 2 most polar opposite of everybody there. And you took out one extreme and you put in another. That shifts that whole city commission quite a bit to the center. I think you've got a very balanced city commission right now, and I think it's going to be very interesting what these next few weeks hold. Tony, thanks for doing this. This was a lot of fun, and obviously your perspective and your history and your knowledge is great on nights like this, so thanks for coming and hanging out with us.
We'll see you on Thursday.
All right, yeah, that sounds good. Thursdays with Tony, and my guess is he'll talk a little bit of city commissions and these elections when he's back in front of the microphone here. All right, we got about a minute or so as we finish up here, and I don't know that I've got a lot more to add than what was talked about already. I would just say my surprises are I didn't know what was going to happen with the Fargo City Commission, didn't know what happened with the Fargo School Board, but we've definitely moved, I think, both boards a little bit more to the right politically. I'm surprised at the Julie Fedorchuk, the scale of her win, and I congratulate her. The latest numbers we have on that one, 46 to 29, and no polls had those kind of numbers in them. And then for Kelly Armstrong, 73 to 26 is that margin right now in percentage. I did not see that coming at all. So some surprises there, no question about it. We'll be back tomorrow on our programs here on WDAY and The Flag, and recap it all and give you more perspective. You're listening to WDAY Fargo, WZFG Dilworth. Thanks for being with us, and have a great night.